walked in. There's Jake.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake. Welcome to Sunday Service. I am a former Jehovah's Witness, current rusty live streamer. Usually on this stream, I check in with what my old cult Jehovah's Witnesses has been up to this week, and I'm a little out of practice. It's been a while since I've streamed. I've had a lot of life stuff going on, and a lot of stuff has happened in Jehovah's Witness world since I've been out of commission. We've had and one thing that's happened is I've gotten a haircut that is hard to, it's all coming apart right now. It's all getting crazy right now. But far more important than individual strands of my hair is the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses were really held to account in Norway. Their trial kind of wrapped up. There were closing arguments. Families were pitted against one another. So we definitely have a lot to get into there once we get past me rambling about my life and such things. So yeah, usually up top in this stream, and if you're watching this in the far-flung future, this is of course a live stream. Nothing's planned. Probably there should be some things planned, but usually there isn't, and I'm just talking out loud, and we react to stuff. Sometimes I do complain about YouTube, and I guess to ease us into the thing, once I find the sound drop, that is what I will do.
Oh, happy day. All worldly complaining about YouTube.
That's the thing. That's the sound drop I was looking for. Thank you for the compliments. I'm going to be feeling a lot better about my lip situation after I put on some chapstick. I can tell you that right now. Lovely. Wonderful. And there's a nice little smudge on my lip. Okay, very good. So a lot's been going on in my world. My grandfather passed away a couple weeks ago. I guess it was a couple weeks ago at this point. With the beginning of the year, I had a lot of grand plans for Alt-Worldly in terms of like shaking things up for the channel this year, and I still plan on doing that stuff. I've got a lot of videos backlogged. Like I spent a lot of the back half of 2024 just kind of recording a lot of stuff. I actually recorded a rebuttal to the February broadcast too, I think, that I just haven't edited at all, and I now don't remember what I said in them. I just remembered this morning that I did that. So that'll be interesting to listen back to. Hopefully today I will get back into editing, but I think it was 2 Thursdays ago, I found out that my grandfather passed. And so that, just kind of brings the shunning thing to light. This is my paternal grandfather, and he was the JW patriarch of the family. He was, my dad is the oldest of 7 kids, right? So my grandfather just had all of these branches off of the tree. Like my dad and all of his brothers and sisters had kids. They're all Jehovah's Witnesses, and now they've got kids who are Jehovah's Witnesses. Like my sister, she's got a kid. He's being raised as a Jehovah's Witness. So my grandfather saw all these generations come up. If you saw my video where I talk about why I left the Witnesses, you'll know that like I had a great grandfather who was a kind of like a NASA scientist guy in the family, and so he was probably the main Kreitz patriarch, and then my grandfather was probably the next after him, the heir to the family name. It's very weird, but in my local area, my family is very well known, and so this is the first time finding out that he passed away, which was of colon cancer, among other things, or sorry, prostate cancer, among other things. It brings up a lot of complicated feelings. I was really relieved that my dad and mom called me and like invited me to go over to my grandma's house where the family was. And so I was able to go over there, and honestly, it was really nice. Like my grandmother, the last words that we exchanged were not pleasant. I mean, I was pleasant, I think. I didn't know what her feelings would be, if there would be hurt feelings still, and there weren't. It was really lovely. She didn't act like anything was wrong at all, and most people didn't. I went over there, and it was funny because I had just gotten this exact haircut that day, I believe, and I shaved. I need to shave again, but so I looked like a Jehovah's Witness. Like, I was dressed in kind of nice-ish clothes and everything, and I went over there, and everybody had beards. Everyone had these big beards and looked disheveled because, of course, like, they'd been in the hospital and stuff and were all tired. So I looked like the Jehovah's Witness among the worldly family. But pretty much everybody was really nice. We told old stories about Grandpa. Grandma brought out some old pictures, showed us these amazing old pictures of my grandfather and stuff. But I realized, like, when I pulled up to the house, I had to park in the grass because there were so many cars in the garage. And I realized there was another part of the house where a lot of the family was sequestered to which they were sequestered. And it turns out a lot of those people did not want to see me. Those were the people who were not comfortable seeing me. And I kind of came to suspect that it was divided up that way because I was there. Real quick, I'm going to just close the door real quick just to shut down the background noise a bit. Sorry about that. Real ones know that Sunday is laundry day. Yeah, it's expected, but it's tough, right? So anyway, like, everything was going pretty well, and I wondered, hey, I wonder if my sister's going to be here. So I asked my mom, right? She said, she knows you're here. She's here. She's in the other part of the house. And so that's what I realized, that there was a lot of family there, including my sister, who, like, were there but didn't want to talk to me. And so, like, when I was leaving, I saw one of my cousins, and we exchanged eye contact, but he didn't, he just averted his gaze and didn't talk to me. And so I still haven't seen my sister, talked to her at all in like 3 years. Or 2-ish. And so it just brought up a lot of complicated feelings because, my mom said something along the lines of they'd be more willing to have a relationship with me if I didn't do stuff like this. Like, if I wasn't vocally critical of the group. But, I kind of just... So I had to sit with that for a little bit and think... I told her, well, I would be open to having that conversation if I knew that you guys really wanted to have a relationship. But I don't know if that's what you guys would really want, because I'm not coming back. And we would have to just make religion off topic like it is today. Clearly, we can get along when we don't talk about this stuff. But you know how it is, right? Like, how it is when you're with your witness family. You kind of realize, depending on how, like, spiritual your family is, it's kind of all they talk about. So, like, what kind of relationship would that be with my parents? Are all they're going to want to talk about, is the only thing they're going to want to talk about Jehovah's Witness stuff? Like, are they just... Because that's not really a great relationship. I don't expect them to stop preaching or going to meetings or going out in service. That's their life. And they preach things I vehemently disagree with, like their stance on gay shit, for example. First curse word of the stream, I think. So, I don't know. I just was kind of not doing great. And then the day after my grandfather died, I got really sick and had to go to the emergency room. I had some issues with my, like, Crohn's and ostomy situation, and frankly, I think probably the stress. I thought I had, like, a bowel obstruction because I was having all those symptoms, and but I was just really sick. It ended up being like a reaction to this medication they'd given me for when I was sick a week before. Like, it was just blah. It was just a blah couple of weeks, and so the entire time, this past Friday, I think, somebody had asked me to be on their podcast, and so I recorded with them, and that was the first time I had touched this computer in this room since my grandfather died. I just haven't been in here, haven't recorded anything, haven't edited anything. I might have edited a little awkward silent supercut, I think, and uploaded it for patrons. But I've been feeling a little out of sorts, so all I've been doing is just writing, but not. Some viewers know, like, I'm working on some like novel projects and stuff, but this was just like diary keeping, just like really trying to process my own emotions, and haven't been sleeping super great. Like, but because I've been writing, like, I'll just stay up till 2 in the morning, just kind of writing stuff, and I've really never kept a diary before, so it's been good. But anyway, it's just kind of complicated. It's just complicated emotions. I now have a few disfellowshipped and or shunned family members who I can commiserate with a little bit about this stuff. We're a little bit scattered about, so we don't see each other all the time. But yeah, sorry, I've just been kind of trying to make sense of this. But I feel bad for the channel because I've got a lot of stuff planned. Like I went through the effort of like making a bunch of like little clips. I bought some new lights, so that clearly not in circulation yet. They're not set up, ready to go yet, but like I got some stuff so I can finally do like 3-point lighting and make my videos look like not dog shit. I've got a lot of good like scripts and stuff that's recorded, interviews that I have conducted and are done, and now the guest has been waiting for me to finish editing their interview for like a month and a half now. But I'm just kind of taking my time, Like, I think my goal at this point is just to avoid burnout. I really like doing this. Like, I don't, I want to be clear. I didn't really have too many regrets about doing the channel. I don't really plan on stopping it. Once I kind of realized, I don't think it's really fair that my parents would make a relationship contingent upon me doing this thing that's important to me and that's a creative outlet. And frankly, I think if they watched any of the videos, they would like them and think they were funny, Like, one of the weird things that I have felt, and maybe I'll make this the last word on the Jake's trauma hour that we've been doing, is like, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this in the channel, but I make all my videos for my family. I do. Like, we all have the same sense of humor. We all, if you know me, you know my family. You would not be surprised talking to anybody in my family, like, based on my sense of humor and personality and sarcasm and stuff like that. I get it honest. And so I make stuff that I'm pretty damn sure would make my sister laugh. Like, if she ever reaches a point where she's willing to question, she's got, me there, hopefully, if she would want to hear my voice anyway. My mom and dad, I think that they would like my channel. They might not like the moments where I talk about being sad about them shunning me specifically, but I say pretty nice things about my parents for the most part on the channel. And I think they would just like them. I think that they would, if they had some perspective, be able to look at it and see like, oh wow, he was able to use the talents that we knew our son had to try and do something to help other people, I think. Also, how's the sound? Is the laundry in the background picking up? I can try and do this thing on my microphone. Let's see. They're just embarrassed. I saw this tweet today that was like, people never forgive you. It wasn't a tweet, by the way. It was a blue sky, whatever that is called. I saw a bloop today that was like, people are happy to forgive you for being wrong, but they do not forgive you for being right. If you are right before somebody else and like they know you're right, that's a lot harder for a person. I would never say never, because I actually did reach out to people that I had shunned and tell them that they were right when I woke up. But it did kind of make me think, like, one of the issues that we face is being correct about the religion before other people in our family. And one of the things that I was feeling more at peace about the last few days when it came to just like the channel and everything was like, I expected to feel more like bitter maybe about when my grandfather passed, because he was sick for a while, and I figured, everyone knew that he was on the decline. He was older. He was 88 when he passed. But it's just I've seen so many generations of my family dedicate themselves to this thing. Like, my grandfather was old my whole life, right? Because he was in his late 50s when I was a little kid. So even before I was born, he thought that the end would have already arrived decades before that. And then every single year for 80 years, let's give him the credit that he probably wasn't super conscious for the first 8 years of his life, doesn't have a lot of memories, and for nothing. And my grandparents on my mom's side of the family, same thing. They joined the religion based on the book Millions Now Living Will Never Die. Or no. The Truth That Leads to Everlasting Life, the one that talked about 1975. They were stay alive till 1975 people. That's when they got baptized, was 75, on my mom's side. And they gave up like amazing careers and opportunities and dreams to do this. And I'm really happy that I'm not doing that. Like, I have dreams beyond talking about Jehovah's Witnesses on YouTube, but I think I'm happy that I'm doing the channel, and I'm going to stick with it. I don't know that was ever too in danger based on my ego, but I don't know. I've been taking it a bit slow and getting ramped back up. But, well, first of all, I do just want to thank you for talking about sensitive things. I do have a new drop for when we talk about sensitive, personal things on the channel.
There's no reason to be embarrassed about what we're going to discuss.
It would have been better to play that beforehand, but I was several minutes into my whining when I realized I hadn't played it. But I do need to take a drink of water, because I've now been talking for some time without taking a customary sip of water.
My church had been giving me ass to drink, but now I was freely receiving, the water of life.
Yeah, like me and my sister loved YouTube poops, by the way. That's formative to our childhood sense of humor. That's why I like doing that. I don't know. What the fuck was I saying? I've been sad because of death and so forth. Also, the state of the world. I don't know. I've had so many little rants in the chamber that I've thought about recording and releasing. And some of them I have recorded and then just not released. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm just kind of slow to upload right now, but we're back, baby. We're back. But this was I've been putting off streaming because of illness and then mental health. Now, I think here's what we're going to do. One of the big goals for 2025 is to get live streams mostly moved over to the other channel. I think I want to try and get the call-in show back up and running, hopefully this coming Thursday, with special guests, Natalie from Scientology channel, who I talked to a couple weeks ago. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, okay, the Small Worldly channel. So I'm going to now currently end the stream on Sunday service with Outworldly, but here's what you're going to do. I'm going to walk you through this. It's going to be amazing. Wait, let me first pull up YouTube.com. Check this out, guys. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the Alt-Worldly channel if you're not subscribed yet. And if you see, there's these little linkies up top. And look at that. You got a thing. Live streams. You just click the thing. And then you're on the thing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Some people say the best thing. So, all right, here's where we say goodbye to 100 or so people from Alt-Worldly. Join us as we talk about Norway and stuff, more things, and probably do a little catch-up as to what the hell's been going on in JW Land over on Small Worldly. Deleting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That was my cringy, weird countdown, female robot countdown voice. Hey, papi. That's right. A literally interrupted stream of conscious rambling. By the way, you know what? While we're playing sound drops, look who's back here hanging out with us. Look at this guy. Whoop. And you heard Echo. He's down there. You heard him meow. But when we see pets, we like to remember that God gave us pets as a gift.
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we mean by this?
Okay, so let's talk about Norway. Let's talk about Norway and what's going on and what's happening and what the deal is. Sometimes we talk about what's not happening, which is a broad subject. This is... Oh, okay. One of the more dramatic things that happened in this Norway trial is that Watchtower used the dad of one of the activists bringing this case against Watchtower, and Watchtower brought the father of this disfellowship to XJW as part of their litigation. So Jan Frode Nielsen, who I've interviewed on the channel, a Norwegian activist and politician who's been really central in this entire thing and has been updating us and XJW land as to what's been happening. His father was kind of used in this litigation to try and undermine his case. He wrote this really amazing thing on the XJW Reddit. I recommend. Let me start a little note here so I can have show notes ready. I always say I'll put this in the notes after the show, and then I'm going to say about 40% of the time I forget to do it, so I'm going to definitely do it now by making it as we go. Okay. Source the first. But I want to talk about his summary. Oh, no, okay. Before we get into this summary that Avoid JW posted of the closing arguments and everything, Jan said that he's actually going to be using this opportunity at the end of this litigation to step away from the XJW online stuff. And I would say he has earned it more than anybody. So he made this post on the XJW Reddit. I regret to announce this at the end. I'm leaving now, and I bid you a very fond farewell. These are the words of Bilbo Baggins as he slipped away from the crowd that celebrated his 111th birthday. Pronounced it correct. It's been an insane ride. From the first time I stepped into this room and tried to make some kind of account name that wasn't taken, ended up with Frode Commode, a nick that probably makes absolutely no sense to any of you. I always thought it was his name plus commode, which means bathroom. And by the way, my grandfather was a sort of old Midwestern guy who called the bathroom the commode, which is a charming detail I always liked about him. XJW Reddit has been a part of my journey through my darkest hours, 3 times in court, and endless amounts of newspaper articles and written opinions, ending up with yesterday's climax, my 3rd appearance in Norwegian court in 3 years, testifying against the religion I once built my life around. Since my profile is so full of history worth saving, I'll keep it up there for future researchers, but apart from that, my aim is to stay away from now on, for my own mental health, and urge to step away. News from Norway will be privately shared with Larchwood and others that are there to spread the important information flow. I'm confident that you will get what you need. Take care, all of you, friends, foes, and those lost in between. He's the best. He's the best guy. And thank you so much to him specifically for me. Like, he's come on this channel several times, and he's also, just behind the scenes, he's always emailing me stuff, updating me, even when I don't get a chance to directly cover it. He's just doing a lot of work that people don't see. That yeah, he's the best. I'm not surprised that he is taking a step away. Also, I didn't say this, but thank you for all of the like kind words and well wishes in chat. Yeah, it's been odd. I haven't really known what to do with my life or say, but I appreciate it. I do. Just slowly processing things. But I want to figure out what the hell's going on here. I would say that this last day, from what I have read, and really this last few days in general, did not go well at all for Jehovah's Witnesses. So we've covered this case a few times. You can scroll back through the live streams and try to find one. There's a good stream highlights on Small Worldly about kind of recapping the Norway situation a couple weeks ago. But anyway, in Oslo, Norway, the poll quote here from Ms. Usato over there at Avoid JW, friend of the channel: if children are baptized too early. It is the parents' fault, from Anders Reisdahl, the Watchtower lawyer. And I believe that Reisdahl is not a witness. Am I wrong? Is he just a state lawyer? I'm not sure. If you don't know, the quick recap is that Jehovah's Witnesses lost government funding because they shun people. And Norway has been cracking down on religious abuses. They contend that because minors can get baptized, let's say like a kid who's 8 or whatever can get baptized, and then later, let's say when they're 28, decide, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, and in fact, I would like my name removed off the ranks, well, then that person would be disfellowshipped. Short of sin, which is up to Watchtower's interpretation, victims of child sexual abuse have been disfellowshipped because they were considered willing participants in their own abuse, sexual immorality, and so forth. So it's just an abusive system. Watchtower were not banned. They're not being thrown in prison. They're not being stopped and or frisked. They're not building detention camps in Guantanamo Bay or anything like that. They just don't get free money from the government because, here's another fun fact, they were just sending that money up to Watchtower headquarters anyway. Norway envisions a world in which religions are using these funds to pay the clergy and provide services for the members because it's a charity and a community service, but Watchtower doesn't do any of that stuff, so none of it really applies. So here's what Mr. Sato says. The closing arguments for the appeal, days 7 through 9, the legal battle between Jehovah's Witnesses, plaintiff, and the Norwegian state, defendant, intensified on day 7 of the appeal hearing, starting with witnesses' closing arguments. The plaintiff, so this is Jehovah's Witnesses, the plaintiff's lawyers utters lies, dismisses evidence by key witnesses, describes them as hostile or disgruntled, and reframes key practices of the religious group to present them more favorably to the court. Therefore, a lot of his arguments may prove very triggering for some reasons, particularly for those who have been directly manipulated by their harmful practices. That's a very good intro because, his entire argument is just lies. Here's the thing. Jehovah's Witnesses absolutely do shun former members. They just do shun them. Anybody who's been disfellowshipped can attest to this. Unless their family break the rules, they have a more lenient conscience. They're not appointed men in the congregation or whatever. Some people skirt the rules, but anybody who's been disfellowshipped can tell you that. And here's the thing: anybody who's not been disfellowshipped can tell you that because it's just what Jehovah's Witness leadership writes down word for word in their publications. The whole process for how removal, as they now call it, works is all written down. It's all official policy. It's said in videos. It is demonstrated. There are letters to the elders. There are internal training manuals. There's just simply no ambiguity at all as to what the practices are. So the only thing that Watchtower does when they go to courts is they lie and they say, you're just reading all of our materials wrong. Just believe now what we're saying in court. Just believe what these hack, fraud, expert witnesses that we hire are, who are all, work for think tanks used by such groups as Scientology and the Moonies. They're all just lies. The only thing they can do is misrepresent Jehovah's Witnesses' views. And when it doesn't work, when people are like, no, we're just accurately reading what you're saying, they really don't like it. And so let's hear some of what Jehovah's Witness leadership had to say. I'm saying witness leadership. I guess I should say Watchtower's lawyers, but they certainly are defending the good name of the leadership and their policies and practices. He started by strongly opposing the state's arguments and their witnesses. He dismissed the accusations of negative social control, coercion, and children's rights violations as being based on meager evidence from hostile witnesses. He claimed the state's actions were an unjust attack on the religious freedom of all 12,000 witnesses in Norway. A group of former members from multiple countries, including Iceland, the US, the UK, Belgium, and Denmark, attended the hearing to support former witnesses testifying against the organization. Some described the atmosphere, while Reisdahl gave the closing arguments in the courtroom as intimidating and tense. The Jehovah's Witnesses who attended the appeal flooded the courtroom to dominate the seating. This happened nearly every day of the appeal. So I find this really fascinating. I'm just trying to imagine, because I live in Ohio in the United States, I'm trying to imagine, like, first of all, just even being aware that there was a court case happening involving Jehovah's Witnesses, and then being told to attend this court case to, like, support the organization and to show that we're all sticking together as Jehovah's people. And then you go there and it is like, you just would see Watchtower's lawyer lying and all of these, like, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses crying about CSA and shunning. Like, I don't know if that's a great strategy. Larchwood just posted a link to Rolf Verulli's latest article pointing out exactly how the witnesses lied in this case. Ooh. Could somebody email me that to exjwfaq@gmail.com? Just email me a link, because I think I saw some screenshots of it when he originally posted it, or maybe I saw like a janky translation. I don't know. So his main argument, and this has also been their argument when it comes to CSA in ICSA, is it's the parents' fault. Okay. He compares Jehovah's Witnesses' baptism to the Norwegian State Church's confirmation of 15-year-olds, arguing that their baptism is no different. Membership is open to everyone, and anyone can leave. Riso claims that if children are baptized too early, it is the parents' fault, not Jehovah's Witnesses. He argues that it is not the organization's responsibility if some members are overly zealous. Children must learn to think independently before they are baptized. Like, what is it? If our brainwashing works on the kid and they're too stupid to see that we're lying, well, then that's the parents' fault. I know that's not how he sees it, but that is what it feels like. Jehovah's Witness kids do not have informed consent, right? First of all, there is not, like there is in Mormonism, some practice of, like, when you hit 8 years old, this happens. I think you get baptized at 8 when you're a Mormon. Like, if you're born and raised in the Mormon church, obviously, if you convert, you wouldn't. You might be past the age of 8 years old. Some Mormons convert up to the age of 10. I don't know what I'm saying. But the witnesses don't have that. It's, like, totally subjective. So I've seen a 6-year-old kid get baptized at a convention, and you could see, an 80-year-old granny get baptized at a convention. It could be anything in between. And they just blame the parents for following the practices of their group. What Watchtower is trying to imply is that there's just a bunch of crazy, overly zealous Jehovah's Witnesses who shun their kids. But that is not the policies and practice of Jehovah's Witnesses. It just so happens that every single witness that the state brings in can affirm the same exact story happening over and over ad infinitum, not to mention just actual quotes from Jehovah's Witness publications. So, like, the only thing that Rice can do is cry conspiracy, is say that everybody in the court is a liar, that the court just doesn't understand all of the direct quotes from their publications. Everybody's lying. The only person who's not lying is Reitstall right in that exact second. The only thing that can be trusted is them. What? Do the elders not ask kids 100 questions to assess their readiness for baptism anymore? Yeah, this is the thing. Like, they do this question thing. Like, when you're a kid, you go through, well, okay, any baptism candidate. It happened when I was a kid. I was 14 when I got baptized. This process probably started, like, when I was 13. Late 13, early 14. You have these 3 separate meetings with the elders. You go through questions that are just basic questions about JW theology. Now, I promise you, dear viewer, that I did not understand any amount of JW theology when I was 14. I am very bad at math, so the 1914 teaching, I just understood that the teaching existed, right? I couldn't have explained it to you. Whatever I said, I'm certain, was just me reading straight from one of the publications, which of course you are allowed to do. So, like, oh, my bad. It's FAQ at gmail.com. Oh, restall. Okay. No, that is important. Restall. Yeah, it's really absurd. Also, like, I would really be shocked if you could watch the testimony of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and see hostility. I don't know. We watched some of these witnesses in, like, videos and interviews and things. Like, you've heard from Jan on the channel. This is, like, the most low-key person ever. They're Norwegians. You know, I'd be worried about a little hostility if this was happening in Germany or Russia, you know, just harsher accents. Sometimes in this channel, I get weirdly racist about European people. Sorry. Problem of mine, I'm working on it. Now, of course, as you can see, he relies on hack, fraud, corrupt piece of garbage, Massimo Intravine. He can quote me on that in court. We've talked a lot about Massimo on the channel. Real ones know. He's one of the think tank people who defends cults. That's his whole job, is he defends cults from consequences for human rights abuses. And he sucks. You can actually look up his name on the Jehovah's Witness website and find several video interviews with him. They love this guy. All right. Sorry. Let me get back to reading this. It should be noted that Intravine has not and does not interact with former members of Jehovah's Witnesses. I can confirm this. I've reached out to him. His work is heavily biased towards cults. He had no data or evidence for the claim that former members' testimony is of little value. Incidentally, that was an unfounded claim made by Brian Wilson in the 1970s, who wrote it in a paper without providing any references or supporting data. Very nice. I think what Mr. Sato is saying is that Massimo is citing an unfounded claim from the 70s. Did I read that correctly? Restall claims that Jehovah's Witnesses are very liberal, oh fuck off, but that some parents have made mistakes and have been too strict. He provides no evidence to support this claim. How many is some? 6, 60, 600, 6,000? He compares this to doping in sports, saying that just because some athletes use doping doesn't mean everyone does. I didn't see this. Holy shit. Regarding Jehovah's Witness publications, he argues that they are not legal texts and that two people can react to the exact text and interpret it entirely differently. Oh, this is bullshit. All right, no. We're going to have to do some real-time fact-checking. You know, speaking of liberals, I know some liberals are shrinking away from fact-checking. It's cowardly. All right. Unity. Sanderson. Here's what you can do. Here's what I would encourage any Jehovah's Witness or skeptic, anybody who, any court who's litigating Jehovah's Witnesses, I would recommend just literally anybody. If you got a question what they believe, search it into their websites and start watching some videos and tell me if this seems like, you know, just a normal, healthy, liberal religion. Okay, so my brain has been rotted by editing these videos a million times. I'm pretty sure I know the spot visually where I can jump to. Where does he start showing some footage? All right. Speed up, slowpoke. Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. I forgot to actually put this on the screen. Ugh. You probably couldn't even hear it, right? Okay. My bad. Let's just... All right. Very good.
Steal it, and you might never see your wallet or its contents again.
He's talking about a thief. Like a thief might steal your wallet.
It is similar with the precious unity we enjoy as Jehovah's people. We need to guard it and protect it, or else someone might steal it. Make no mistake, the devil is looking for an opportunity to steal our unity from us. Think about how unique our unity is. Unlike other religious organizations, we're not divided into sub-denominations. We don't have Northern Jehovah's Witnesses, Orthodox Jehovah's Witnesses, or Reformed Jehovah's Witnesses. As the Apostle Paul expressed it, we are united in the same mind and in the same line of thought.
Okay, so here's the TLDR about... TLDR? Holy shit. TLDR DR is what I meant to say. So Riesdahl is a filthy liar who deserves to go to jail, is what I'm saying. As a non-lawyer, this guy can eat my farts. Yep. So, he's saying that all Jehovah's Witnesses are allowed to interpret the Watchtower differently. This is counter to anything that any Jehovah's Witness has been told their entire lives. Any Jehovah's Witness sitting in that courtroom would have known that this guy is full of shit. Thankfully, they didn't ask them. Oh, yeah, by the way, this is also just not true at all, what he's saying. The cultural differences between Jehovah's Witness congregations are pretty vast, with the exception of following the rules from headquarters. So, like, if you go to a Spanish congregation, they might have a different culture about, like, parties. Like, American congregations, or maybe I should say, like, more like white English speaking congregations are going to be more like stuffy and conservative than like the Spanish congregation I went to when it comes to recreation and like parties and dancing and stuff. But all Jehovah's Witnesses have to be on the same page about things that come from branch headquarters, like their rules regarding disfellowshipping and removal. Well, see, this is true, but there's no group of Jehovah's Witnesses that accepts blood transfusions and doesn't shun people and thinks it's okay to be gay. You know, there's not a progressive push within Jehovah's Witnesses like there has been perhaps in the Mormons, where there were some internal schisms about what should or shouldn't be allowed. Like this is not the case. All of this stuff is like, oh, well, we had premarital sex once and I got off with a reproval instead of a disfellowshipping, but I grew up in California and not Kansas. Like, all of the differences are more on the margins of what's acceptable forms of, like, recreation, entertainment. It's not dress and grooming, certainly. Like, if you go to, like, West Coast beach congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, the dress and grooming standards are very different from Cleveland, Ohio, I'm going to go ahead and assume, or Norway, or whatever. So it's just all, I think that this is a lie that he's telling here. Also, he provides no evidence for his claims. Okay, he repeats that Jehovah's Witnesses are the ones being violated. We are the oppressed ones. And that they now fear being portrayed as a dubious sect. Oh, no. They are acting like a dubious sect because they are doing dubious things. And so they are being portrayed in a way that comports with reality. If you don't want to be a dubious sect, don't tell lies constantly and in court in front of people's faces. He also mentions that the loss of their right to perform marriage is a violation. No, it's not. You could just do it in another building, dipshit. Additionally, he argues that they could theoretically lose clergy confidentiality rights, similar to those granted to Norwegian priests. Oh my god, how terrible would that be? You'd have to actually mandatorily report crimes to the police if that happened. He further claims that parents' right to raise their children within their religion or philosophy are being violated. He asserts that another violation is requiring Jehovah's Witnesses to change their biblical stance on exclusion to receive state funding. Like, no! Ah! The problem with, like, cults. The problem with Christian evangelical cults is they are not comfortable with a society based on pluralism and freedom of religion. Jehovah's Witnesses do not want freedom of religion. They do not. They do not advocate for any other religion. They will happily throw any other religion under the bus. In fact, they plan on it during the Great War of Armageddon. No, they care about only themselves and their own rights. It's the same way with Christian nationalists, right? They think that when the Jesus talks about the great God Jehovah and the Last Supper and such, when he's talking about, like, be nice to people, they think he means be nice to the right people. And since we're being used by Jesus, we get to determine who the people that we are nice to. We get to determine who those people are. Like, they want to determine the in-group and the out-group, even though Jesus' message was basically like the only out-group is the elites trying to repress women and sick people and the poor and unfortunate. They can't fathom a world in which religions have to abide by the same laws as everybody else, right? Because they don't believe they're like everybody else. They believe that they are special, that they are appointed by God. Recently, a president made a statement along the lines of, he who saves his country does not violate any law. You know, sort of the Thanos approach to, well, yes, I'm going to be committing genocide on half the human race, but it's actually saving the world in some roundabout way, so it's right. And they're like, well, yeah, we do shun people because we think that's what the Bible says. And anybody who tries to say that that there are going to be some consequence, that we might not get free money for doing this, is persecuting us. Like, to them, equality is persecution because they don't want equality. They want superiority. They want to be on top of the hierarchy. Their whole thing is preaching about a coming theocracy where their God puts them in charge of everybody on earth. So they don't believe in any kind of world in which they have to argue in good faith. Like, I saw a really amazing post on the XJW subreddit. Sorry, that was a really weak ramble for like 5 minutes. My ADHD brain was failing me. I think I've latched on to a solid thought here. But I saw a post on the XJW Reddit that was like, Jehovah's Witnesses are actually apparently woefully unprepared for persecution, because apparently this is how they're going to act. Like, all they talk about all the time is, we're going to be persecuted during the Great Tribulation. Satan and his world are going to come against us, but we are going to stand strong. But what is actually happening is, when they are put on the witness stand and when their feet are held to the fire, they lash out and cry like babies and blame everybody else and lie. So I don't know. Is that like Paul in the Sanhedrin? Is that like Jesus before Pontius Pilate, that pompous Pilate who tried to get him thrown out of a plane or something? I never learned anything about that pompous Pilate guy. Anyway, sorry, I'm just ranting. I'm ranting and raving. Oh, well, that might be true. That might be true. I think it might depend on the elder. Totally depends. You're violating us by not giving us money, and also because you're allowed to have negative opinions about us. Yeah, like, anybody who has a negative opinion about Jehovah's Witnesses is merely mistaken. They were misinformed. And you see the same thing with Trump. Fuck it. I was going to try and not be as political, I guess. I don't care anymore. This channel is what it is here. Let's enter the politics corner.
Mom, it's difficult. Mommy, when I get out, call me Sammy.
Okay, that was a nice palate cleanser. This is what I meant to.
It's difficult not to take sides in politics. It's very difficult because we are aware of the issues.
You know, psychotic megalomaniacs, it's not just, they don't like differences of opinion. They don't like a world in which some people think that they're complete morons and assholes. They think that about people, but nobody's allowed to think that about that. So they'll just kick and scream until they silence the assholes. You know, there must be a conspiracy. And that's why, like, these authoritarian groups, like, they cannot handle any amount of negative information. It is why Jehovah's Witnesses leadership equates criticism to lies. It's the exact same thing that Trump does all the time. If a group is critical of them, well, then they must have Trump derangement syndrome, right? Certainly no president in U.S. history has done anything corrupt or worthy of criticism. So this must be the result of some psychotic conspiracy. People who don't understand my glorious leader must simply be misinformed. They've been lied to by propaganda. They've been brainwashed. They've been misled by Satan or the woke mind virus or whatever. There's always some excuse so that, no, It couldn't possibly be that we are so out of touch. It must be that the children are wrong. That is the general vibe of Jehovah's Witnesses and every other cult. Tech billionaires. Just personal circumstances. But he doesn't stop with his lies there. By the way, Mr. Sato was right. I did get very triggered, and I've been triggered for the last 45 minutes now. You should have made it a bigger warning, and one addressed to me that made me click another button to go on to the next page that said, like, are you sure? Jake, you're going to get worked up and talk about one paragraph every 15 minutes. He further claims a high degree of normalcy in family relationships with disfellowship members. He argues that complex personal circumstances and former members' mental health issues are the real reasons people experience social rejection. He provides no evidence for this ludicrous claim. Vibes. The argument is vibes. Riestal then works to discredit the testimonies of former members, witness by witness. Oh boy. He dismisses the state's claims of negative social control. Child right violations are based on meager evidence from hostile witnesses. We talked about that. He argues that testimonies from former members are unreliable and do not justify stripping the organization of its registration and state funding. Right? While I'm in the politics corner, I mean, what if you remember the January 6th committee that was entirely made up of former Republicans? I think there was the only person who was a Democrat there, I think, was the one poll worker who got like unjustly targeted by Judy Giuliani, who thought that she was like passing some top secret USB tape and it was like a piece of candy. All those people were Republicans. Some are still current Republicans. They were all Republicans, but because they went against the order for this stolen elector scheme in 2020, they were called rhinos, right? And they were completely forced out of the party. They were demonized, people who were best Trump buddies up until that exact second. Once they hit their red line and were like, sorry, Mr. President, I can't go along with you on that. That's just actually, there is no fraud here in the state of Georgia. We just didn't find any. So there aren't any 11,000 more votes. Well, they're a rhino. And now I, because I'm talking about it, am a brainwashed, woke mind virus shill who probably got so many vaccines my head's about to explode with 5G or something, right? Like, but there's always a magical, insane, complicated excuse that you could use to avoid admitting that you were simply wrong. Did we like Julie Rudiani? That's what I'm going to call him now. One of my favorite funky spoonerisms. Funky spoonerism. That's what I was trying to do. He provides no evidence as to why the testimony of the former members is unreliable. Indeed, he could not provide even a single example that any of the testimonies given by the former members was demonstrably false. So why are their testimonies unreliable? That's what we just said. It's because they testified against the group in the first place. It's like they believe their own no true Scotsman fallacy. They believe that no true Jehovah's Witness would ever leave Jehovah's Witnesses. Therefore, anybody who's criticizing them is unreliable. He summarizes by claiming that his client is being discriminated against because of their exclusion policy. He argues that the state is both interfacing and violating Jehovah's Witnesses' rights and that the government is mistreating them, saying the lie should apply equally to all. It does. It does apply equally to all. That's why they're being held to account. You know, they are crying weaponized government when, in fact, this is how the government's supposed to work, holding harmful, abusive institutions to account. You know, what might be bias, for example, is like if we knew for a fact that Jehovah's Witnesses thought that every government in the world was being controlled by Satan, it would soon be destroyed directly by the governing body, the current leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, if Jehovah's Witnesses believe something crazy, like that their leaders would soon be raptured to heaven and would wage war against the very people in this courtroom, you might suspect that Jehovah's Witnesses had a bias against the courts. But that didn't come up. And I'm willing to bet that the nice people of Norway didn't even bring that up. I am willing to bet that they did not bring up the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are like deeply anti-government, anti-democracy, like anti-rule of law. It's all internal processes. They believe that this exact court will be destroyed. It'll probably be like, okay, no. Like, Russia is the one that's going to be in David Blaine's sniper scope, for sure, when he's riding in on his heaven horse, and he's got, that little sniper rig at the end of his bow and arrow, like the one you get in Twilight Princess with the owl mask. That's what David Blaine has on his heaven horse. He's going to get Russia first. But then, I think, Sam Hurd, he's going to ride his horse, which, of course, he has lovingly named Mommy. He's going to ride Mommy up to the Norwegian government and throw a Mad Maxian spear with explosives on the end of it at this Oslo, Norway court building. Like, that is exactly what Sam Hurd thinks he's going to be doing soon. And then he'll go, yeah. Hold on, guys. I think we have a clip. We might have a clip. Do we have a clip? I think we might have a clip. Can we cue the clip?
Yeah.
That's Sam Hurd jizzing because he's so excited about killing all the governments and false religions in the world. Okay. Very good. So let's get to Norway's closing arguments. And before we do that, I'm afraid I do have to take just a quick sip of the water of life.
The water of life.
Very good. Oh, Bo is still back there. Oh, what a treat. 12-hour loop of the water of life. Okay. Can I make this bigger? What if I do this? That's a little better. So, government attorney Liv Inger... Oh, boy. Let's go with Liv Gabrielson. That one, those words I can pronounce. Began her argument by representing the Ministry of Children and Families. She rejected Riesdahl's claim that the state was attacking religious freedom. Freedom of religion is something the state values highly, and it extends far, but the rights of a religious community under it are not unlimited. She also says, Gabriel stressed that the case is not about individual members, but about the organization as a whole. She posed the key question: should individual religious freedom and children's rights take precedence over the religious freedom of a faith community when they conflict? She argued that religious communities must be limited in their activities, and that the state's decisions to revoke funding and registration was an attempt to balance individual rights and religious rights. In the afternoon, Gabrielson laid out several key arguments about why the state had the legal right to revoke Jehovah's Witnesses' state funding and official registration. Her argument centered on the claim that the religious group's practices violate children's rights and that the social consequences of leaving the faith amount to coercion. Let's just quickly look at some quotes from the Norwegian lawyer here. From the ministry. There goes a limit to what religious communities can do, Gabrielson stated in court, defending the decision to strip the group of state benefits. The state contends that those who attempt to leave the religion face severe social and emotional consequences, making their choice to stay less than voluntary. This is a violation of religious freedom, as it restricts individuals, particularly minors, from freely choosing their faith or lack thereof. Children can face isolation. Children may be subjected to judicial committees. Yeah, and she says, children can be forced to appear before these committees where elders decide their fate in the congregation. This could expose children to mental distress, intimidation, and an undue burden of guilt at an age when they are particularly vulnerable. Legal basis for deregistration and loss of funding. Disfellowshipping and social shunning, coercive restrictions on members leaving, and the involvement of minors in judicial proceedings. Sorry, I wanted to skip ahead because I know that there's a part where they say, like, we didn't make them illegal or anything. It's just because Watchtower says that, like, this is the worst since Russia. We've not been so persecuted since the days of Russia. Oh, thank you, darling. Mm-hmm. My darling has brought me some little pizza squares. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So, board member of Jehovah's Witnesses says, the purpose of the sentencing committee is to lead people back to a healthy relationship with God, and this should be done in a friendly manner. Now, of course, we saw, when we looked at the League Judicial Committee training videos, that the manner is very friendly. It is aggressively pointedly friendly. They're very, very smiling, big, nodding, and like lots of facial expressions. Yeah, that friendly manner of shunning. It's the friendliest shunning of all religions, they argue. Oh, brother. Let's look at this. The final day of the court proceedings in the appeal case between Jehovah's Witnesses and the Norwegian state took an intense turn as the religious community's lawyer, Riesdahl, launched a sharp critique against the state's legal team. Riesdahl filed a formal objection against the state for claiming that elders asked for explicit details in a judicial committee. Riesdahl then accused the government of introducing arguments that the religious group has not been allowed to address during the trial. This puts the facts of the case in a new position, and we deserved evidence and new mention. This comes too late, Riesdahl asserted, prompting the court to take a break for the state's lawyers to consider their position. However, upon returning, the government's legal team maintained that their argument concerning allegedly intrusive and uncomfortable interrogation of minors was part of the broader case framework. We dispute that such conversations take place, Riesdahl stated firmly. So what he's talking about is things that absolutely do take place, we've talked about a lot, which is the disgustingly perverse personal questions that elders ask people in judicial committees. For example, exact sexual details of a teenage girl who fooled around with her boyfriend or was raped. You know, in my case, I was asked really gross questions like about my fingers penetrating my girlfriend, like really gross, specific questions that are very personal. And I was luckily in my 20s when that happened. I would probably have different feelings about it if I was a teenager when something like that happened. But it was still kind of traumatic. And yeah, they dispute that such conversations take place. Here's something to think about. I've been thinking about it. So the reason why Watchtower feels comfortable making this argument that such things do not take place is because there is no written policy that mandates elders ask weirdly gross personal questions. Like that's not what's happening. But it is a cultural thing. It does happen across all congregations, it seems. So just culturally, from one generation to the next between elders, this is just kind of a thing that gets passed on, that when you are talking to somebody about a sexual sin, you have to be really thorough and get to the bottom of the details. We kind of saw this in the 2 videos I did looking at the leaked judicial committee training videos. You see that the elders are kind of told they have to ask for really specific details because they're looking for like inconsistencies in the witness's story that they can then jump on to determine if the person was lying, because they treat it like a court proceeding or a police interrogation. And if you have ever seen the internal forms that they fill out for child sexual abuse, they're crazy. They look like police reports, as Mark O'Donnell has mentioned before. They look exactly like police reports. It's really crazy. One of the things that they check on the box for CSA is whether or not the minor was a willing participant, right? So imagine, first of all, it's a disgusting misunderstanding of rape in general, but it's also, it kind of suggests that elders do have to feel confident in asserting that they have enough information about this that the minor was willing. So they're asking a lot of questions, right? But it's not written down anywhere. And I do think that what the organization, if I were them, I wouldn't write anything down going further. I wouldn't write any of this stuff down. I would only do your elders training stuff like the shepherd book. I would not have a shepherd book. I would not have a shepherd book that is easily accessible to elders. I would not write down policies. I think it should all be communicated. I'm thinking as a cynical cult leader, you would do it all verbally. You would just stop writing things down. You know, what do corporations do when they're in hot water? Well, they stop using their email server, because if they get indicted and they're on a documents hold, then everyone's going to see all their documents. So they just stop using them and the shady stuff they do through totally unofficial means. And we have not, since all of these changes to disfellowshipping, they have not done an update to the Shepherd Book. I kind of wonder if they are going to release an update to the Shepherd Book. I kind of wonder if what they're going to do is just only do trainings with elders, either in person or over Zoom, like KM schools, and have it only be KM schools, because it's just a lot harder to keep track of that stuff. Or sorry, it's harder for that stuff to leak because fewer people have access to the original files, right? Instead of pushing out a file to every elder in the worldwide organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, you're pushing a file to like 50 elders who are the trainers for whatever. It's more than 50, but I think you know what I'm saying. Like, yeah, Dial said it exactly right. They truly think they're cops solving a murder instead of pervs harassing teenagers. That's it. Like that is the dynamic. They think that they're shepherds from God who are doing the most important thing they can possibly do, which is keep God's organization clean, the congregation clean. And if that means I don't care if I have to kidnap 1,000 children if it saves this company. No, let's get the quote from Water News correctly. I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die. That's what he said, but I digress. This is something that's not in writing. I can see a future where they have even fewer things in writing. Yeah, so check this out, right? So they allowed this elder with an unpronounceable name. To me, it's obviously very pronounceable to people who are there. An elder in the congregation to explain. Sederhaug emphasized that the religious community's internal guidance does not encourage asking more detailed questions than necessary. Right, but it doesn't discourage it, now does it? It doesn't say anything about it in particular. So, Judge Jorgen Mon challenged his position by referencing witness testimonies that described highly detailed and distressing interrogations. Could it be that someone has experienced very detailed and unpleasant sentencing committees? Mon asked. It has never been in line with the guidance of elders. It has never been in line with the guidance elders have received. Sederhaug responded, maintaining that he had no knowledge of such cases. All of the lies uttered over the 2 weeks of appeal, this is the greatest one. Sorry, of all the lies. Elders are directed to find out if porneia has been committed. How are they going to do that if they do not ask invasive questions? The whole judicial process involves sexual activity. The whole judicial process that involves sexual activity is set up to be intensely invasive. That's a really good point from Ms. Usato. This is really in the weeds, but witnesses are obsessed with this Greek term. I believe it's a Greek term called porneia. They believe that when this word or this thing occurs in the Bible, that it's some biblical principle. And so they've got really, really specific definitions of what constitutes porneia, the disfellowshipping offense blanket. And it's like the Pillowgate videos, which, spoiler alert, the big video that I've been working on that's actually like a video essay with research and stuff. It's Pillowgate adjacent, let's say. It involves this kind of thing. The obsession with pornography and masturbation by Jehovah's Witnesses, but cults in general. So if you've seen the Pillowgate videos, you know that like the scenarios they run through are so insanely specific, down to like if you linger on a thumbnail of an image that you find sexually arousing and get aroused, that is technically bad, but it is not porneia, right? Like if you sleep with a pillow between your legs and get a nocturnal emission, you might have to change your behavior so that you don't do that, because that could be considered masturbation because you are intentionally causing an orgasm. It's so specific. Really, I think the best counter to this, if this is what Watchtower really plays up on appeal, is the Pillowgate videos. Show those. Those leave no question. But there's also like in the leaked judicial training videos, if you remember Aquarium Lady, the drunken seductress who tried to steal our Jehovah's Witness away from Virgin Town and into sex land, their words, not mine, I'm pretty sure that the elder interrogating says something like, you said that you got close. How close were you? You know, kind of asking a lot of follow-up questions. Actually, maybe we can go on an interesting tangent here, because one of the leaked training videos, I believe Dave King's account was knocked down by Watchtower. Dave King was the leaker who was posting all of these amazing leaked internal training videos to Reddit, and I'm pretty sure if you look up his account, it was like Watchtower got him with the copyright thing. And so all that stuff's gone. But I've got them downloaded all somewhere, and if I can find them, so the videos that I talked about on the main channel were the Judicial Committee and Judicial Review part of it. So we saw the initial interrogation that the elders do with the accused, and then we saw them follow up with each other and kind of discuss, are we going to disfellowship this guy or no? And there's more, though. There's more that I never got around to making, and they're based on videos around an appeal. Robbie does an appeal committee, and let me see if this is it. This is the reinstatement thing. I found my files. I'm just looking to see if the right one. Okay, I think this is it. Let's look at it, because I think this will be a good way of showing, like, the way Jehovah's Witness elders preempt criticism of the judicial arrangement. It'll make sense when I show it, I think. Let me know if you can't hear the audio. I think I've had problems playing it through QuickTime before. If it doesn't work, then I'll just upload the file to StreamYard. Like, I can hear this, but I don't know if you can. Can we hear? Shit, okay. All right. Damn it, QuickTime. All right. Well, let me... There's an easy fix for this. We shall upload directly to StreamYard. I know I haven't done a lot of voices. There hasn't been much occasion. Let's present a video file. Jason. What? There we go.
Robbie didn't waste any time in sending a letter appealing our decision
We good
to
now?
disfellowship. He simply says, "Dear brothers, in my heart I know I am repentant. Therefore I wish to appeal the decision to disfellowship me. Robbie, friend."
I feel bad that another group of brothers will have to take the time to consider the evidence again. The decision was so obvious.
I kind of thought Robbie might appeal, so I went ahead and carefully read over KS10 on the subject. The point is made that an appeal hearing should be arranged even if there does not seem to be a valid basis for doing so.
Guess we need to call the circuit overseer so he can select an appeal committee from the circuit elders.
Yes. In fact, could one of you brothers stay back so that we can give him a call right away?
Okay, so much elder face, says Natalie, which absolutely. I mean, we see it right now. You see the elder face as it's in the in-between animation between elder face poses. Right. So as we can see right off the bat, the idea that it is fellowshipping could have been wrong is seen as a ridiculous inconvenience by the elders. And I think this is important. They're very arbitrarily deciding whether or not a person is repentant in their heart, right? Because Robbie says, I know that I am repentant in my heart. And so the elders just have to be like, well, we'll, I guess, form an appeal committee to see if they agree with the contents of your heart, even though they're saying right now that they clearly don't agree with the idea that there could be anything wrong with the decision. And I'm pretty sure that they all communicate with each other, these elder bodies, right? You'll see as this goes along.
I believe he'll be home from...
But it's not exactly a new impartial investigation.
George, you take your good wife home and get a good night's rest.
Thanks.
George?
I won't argue with that sage bit of advice. Good
George.
night, brothers.
George. This is where the elders are supposed to pause it to discuss the video. We're going to let it play through. Hey, you'll see the unedited version of this. This is what I used to demonstrate that elders like to cosplay as secret agents.
Hello, Mike Sharp.
Hi, Mike. This is Tom Wiseman. Are you in a place where we can talk privately?
Yes, in my office with the door closed.
I got a call from the circuit overseer, and he's appointed an appeal committee for the Robbie Friend case. I'll be serving as chairman.
Thanks for the call.
Steve Adams is on the committee, and so is Bob Williamson from Niceville.
Good to know.
We'll need to see the S-77
Niceville.
report,
Sounds nice.
any notes or other related paperwork, and then meet with your committee to discuss the case.
He's an appealer.
S-77 form here, and a few notes that Brother Elderman and I took during the judicial hearing.
So, I don't know. Does this seem like the clergy process to you? Does this seem like the confession booth process to you? Like a manila file folder with an S-77 form and an appeal and
Will you be at your meeting this Sunday?
Yes, I plan on it.
Then I can swing by your hall after service and hand deliver the paperwork for you brothers to review.
That would be great. I told the other brothers to reserve Sunday evening for us to review the case at my hall, so good timing. If your committee is available to join us about 7:30, that would be perfect.
Let me check with the others. I can let you know if that works when I give you the paperwork. I'll be there tomorrow about 12:30.
Fine. Also,
This is so important. Jenny has brought up something that I totally missed, and she's so right. This is what an elder's office is supposed to look like, right? He is very, very organized. He has all of his little forms in a file folder, in a filing cabinet with all the right little tabs for all of his Jehovah's Witness legalistic forms that he has to fill out for free as part of his unpaid job. He is apparently the most wealthy Jehovah's Witness in the world. He has, a doctor's office from the television show ER. The kind of doctor's office that no actual doctor has at any hospital, but for some reason, Cuddy has or something in the show house. That's how rich this guy is. He's got all of his little Jehovah's Witness books at the ready. He's willing to drop absolutely everything to drop paperwork off in person to another congregation across town after he goes out in service. This is another thing, by the way, that was, frankly, adding to the complexities of my grief and grieving and stuff is this is my dad and my grandfather's life, and it has been for decades. And if my dad stays a Jehovah's Witness, this is going to be his life for decades. It's just filling out, just doing these weird little businessy phone calls to organize unpaid labor for a cult that is intentionally designed to throw them under the bus if the leadership is ever in trouble. So it may look like he's got a nice office with one of those golden letters that you can buy at any Joann Fabrics or Michaels. And most of his knickknacks kind of just seem like the little knickknacks they have at Joann's, which I am saying because I also have many of these. This is what our living room is like.
I checked, and the appeal committee can meet with Robbie Robbie and your committee as early as Monday evening, if that works for everyone. We're thinking of your Kingdom Hall since it's closer for the majority.
Sounds good. I'll verify it with the others and let you know. Do you want me to check with Robbie?
That would be fine. See you tomorrow with the paperwork.
Bye.
Chat is popping off. By the way, rest in peace. What a week. Speaking of grief, this is more grief I have to figure out. Damn, we totally didn't even need to watch that at all. I meant to skip forward to the actual process where we see the appeal so that you can see how Jehovah's Witnesses are gaslit when they attempt to resolve what they feel is an unjust disfellowshipping within the legal framework of the group. Like, I guess what Watchtower would say is if all these ex-Jehovah's Witnesses testifying in Norway had a real problem, what they really should have done was appeal their disfellowshipping process. We have a whole process for that never ever results in reversals, except for maybe one time in all of JW history. Like, so this is the process. Jehovah's Witnesses say, don't go to the press and the Norwegian government and YouTube and complain about things. Trust the process. Trust the legal process. So this is the legal process. Robbie has submitted his request for a new military tribunal with a different branch of the same military. And he wants to see if they also determine that he is a spiritual danger to God's sheep. So it should be a pretty normal process.
You doing okay considering the circumstances?
Yeah, I'm okay.
The other brothers are discussing something.
Actually, let's take a minute to appreciate brother... We know Robbie. We know Robbie Friend. This is the face I wanted to examine. Look how utterly psychotic our lead elder looks. Tom Wiseman? Was that his name? Tom Wiseman? Or was that the guy he called? This Kingdom Hall really, really looks like the Kingdom Hall where me and Christina got married, by the way. I just had a little flood of memories. Now, I almost moved on, but I think we just should appreciate his face a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Tom Bookshelfman from Niceville.
Yeah, I'm okay.
The other brothers are discussing something. They will probably be ready in a couple of minutes.
It's a couple of minutes before 7. Steve, can you say another prayer, asking for wisdom and to help us have the Christ-like spirit during the hearing?
Sure.
I was chewing, but that was very good.
We're ready if you brothers are.
Okay, so right away, I find it pretty weird that to get a totally new, unbiased opinion, that the party that disfellowships the guy, the first step is poison the well against the guy and vehemently argue that you did everything right and that this guy's crazy for daring to appeal.
And you must be Robbie Friend. I'm Tom Wiseman. I know your father, but I guess I never saw the two of you together.
I enjoyed your talks at the convention this summer. Thank you for taking the time to come.
Had to clean those bad boys once every month for hall cleaning.
Table. You can sit to my right. Help yourself to a seat, brothers. Robbie, this is Steve.
I'm brother Jeffrey
This
Jehovah.
is Bob Williamson.
Hi, I'm with the Niceville.
Why don't we have fun names? Well, they're with the Niceville congregation, so they're all under the umbrella of a goofy name. But I would prefer that they're like, my name is Todd, construction servant, and this is Brother James, Jonadab class.
Congregation.
The circuit overseer asked us to serve as the appeals committee to hear your plea.
Thank you for taking the time to be here.
We've read the report filled by the judicial committee, so we're familiar with what...
Like, what is this? So the whole time you go to your appeal, like I didn't know this before I watched this video, the whole time that you go to your appeal, the original committee is just sitting in the corner staring daggers at you like, yeah, this little punk thinks that we didn't do everything right. Can't wait to see what he thinks we could have done better. This sinner who's just trying to get out of consequences. Exactly. Welcome to this giant waste of time. I mean, this doesn't look like a receptive audience to me. I don't know about you.
What you admit it took place. Since you confessed to committing fornication on more than one occasion, it's clear that there were scriptural grounds to forming a judicial committee to meet with you. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I committed fornication on more than one occasion.
Robbie, another aspect of our assignment is to ascertain whether you were repentant at the time of the initial hearing or not. So first, may I ask you to explain your basis for appealing the decision?
Stephen takes a break at Panera at 11 instead of 11:30 with everyone else.
I'm a little nervous. I wasn't expecting the first committee to be here. Is that really necessary?
We can certainly understand your nervousness. But this is the arrangement. And really for the benefit
Right, okay. So, no, yeah. I find this amazing because in this training video, the guy who is disfellowship doesn't know that the other committee is going to be there. So he's like me, somebody who was never an elder and didn't know that this is how it worked, right? Until I saw this. But that's part of it, apparently, because it's in the training. Part of the appeal committee is that you throw off the person by having the other committee there, right? I mean, if they're an elder, I guess they would know about it. But if they're an elder, they're probably smart enough to know that you needn't bother with the appeal committee. And that's why a lot of ex-elders just become apostates because they understand the system and they know there's no point in going through this rigmarole. And does this seem like a friendly group who's trying to move someone to come back to Jehovah? He's like, I didn't know they were going to be here, and that makes me uncomfortable. Is it okay if they leave? And they said, no, that's not the arrangement. So what do you think is going to happen in 1985 if the arrangement is that the abuser is there in the room with the abuse victim or whatever, however long that lasted until they kind of changed it? This is really important, this video. Like, if Watchtower is really going to try and defend this process, what they're going to have to demonstrate is that the internal process doesn't still work like this, right? Because as far as we know, the only thing they have done is change the names given to the things. They don't call it a judicial committee, they call it a committee of elders, and they don't call it disfellowshipping, they call it removal. But as far as we know, if you just did Control F, find and replace those words with the new words, this is all exactly the same as far as we know. So I'm very interested to see if they bother to create new training videos. You would think, right, that they would. You would think if the arrangement is now different because of Norway, that they would have new training videos. But I bet they don't. I bet they don't make new training videos because I bet they have no interest in actually changing the internal process. Watchtower just wanted to see if they could do their tried and true legal strategy, which has honestly worked really well for them for the entirety of their existence, of just lying about what their beliefs are and trusting that the courts are not going to bother to read the books and the website, which unfortunately now witnesses have made easier to do than ever. So I think it's just all kind of coming to a head. I think that these videos, we need to hang on to these if we're ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, because I think a lot of the litigation, what Norway was able to do, if it serves as a model, the disfellowshipping removal, the removals committees, that process is the thing that is getting them in trouble. It's the thing that demonstrates that this is a systemic practice that all Jehovah's Witnesses know to exist and understand. And what they are now saying in the courtroom is a lie to obfuscate all of this. I don't think that they have demonstrated that they have changed any of this. And I would bet you anything during the next elders meeting, they're going to play these exact same videos like they always do. and just be like, now we don't call it a judicial anymore, we call it this, but the message is still the same.
Feel that your earlier testimony is being changed, they can let that be known, and we can address it. On the other hand, if you feel at some point that they've altered their thinking since the last hearing, we can address your concern. Since we're all here together.
This is like the Oppenheimer trial that they keep cutting to, where he's like in a broom closet and just like all of these bad faith people who hate him are in there.
Actually, a loving provision from Jehovah's organization. It is to ensure that something was not missed or overlooked by the original committee. And this is the way they have directed it be handled, so that everything is open and above board.
Be assured, you will get a complete...
But if there's anything you feel uncomfortable saying in front of them, too bad.
Here.
Here's an interesting question. What would happen if this was a victim of sexual abuse, right? Like, let's say that Robbie, same exact Robbie, but he was raped by one of the elders. Because that happens too. Adults get sexually assaulted. So what if that happened? And the elder in that home congregation, he's friends with all the other elders, so they defend him. You know, he poisons the well against Robbie. And then Robbie goes to his appeal committee, and he's like, no, you don't understand. I think this... No, sorry, you can't... Well, you can badmouth the other elder body, but they're there sitting in front of you, and they've already given their side of the argument to this body of elders who are inclined to uphold the system and not trust a filthy sinner whose very existence undermines the question of Holy Spirit, right? So, like, this is what you have to do when you see this kind of thing. Like, this is the most clear-cut example they could possibly do of something. And it's still really fucked up, honestly. Like, this is a guy who had consensual sex with a fellow adult. Who gives a shit? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses do. They inserted their way into this man's business, broke him down until he was sobbing, as we saw, and then asked him a bunch of deeply unpersonal questions and disfellowshipped him. And then they didn't tell him what the hell the appeal process was. They didn't tell him how it worked, so he shows up and he's totally blindsided. This is what Watchtower says is a completely ethical process. It's not cult-like or weird or abusive at all.
I understand. It is a kindness on the organization's part. I appreciate it. And I don't have anything against these brothers. I really don't. But I just feel like things got out of control when we met together. They used a series of calculating questions to trap me into confessing what I did. After that, it was like they just slammed the book shut on me. They called me back into the library and disfellowshipped me. It was all over in no time. They didn't give me time to break it off with the girl, no time to think it through more. It was like a slam dunk decision and the game was over, and I was the loser.
They use a series of calculating and manipulative questions, right? So, in this training scenario, Robbie is seen as rightfully disfellowshipped because he did, in fact, do these things. And that's, like, the most obvious Christian sin is, like, premarital sex. So it's, like, you know, it's game over. But you can tell that Watchtower has heard the criticism before that the elders are manipulative and calculating into entrapping people into being disfellowshipped, right? So they have included that in the training. Which I think is fascinating. And I think it shows that Watchtower has heard this criticism. And their response to this is to make a deeply gross, calculated, and manipulative video justifying their Ortbo. If we're not watching Severance, are we really fans of the Outworldly channel? Is my question. We did learn about a calamitous Ortbo. That show is the best. It's the best show on TV. If you're not watching Severance, oh my god.
Robbie, in your letter, you said, "In my heart, I know I am repentant." Can you explain that aspect for us, please?
Yeah, how do you know that, idiot? Don't you know that no one could know the heart? Because it's treacherous, and the only person who can know it is Jehovah, and we speak for him, so you're disfellowshipped? Don't you know that? Okay. I don't know that we actually need to watch the rest of this, but this was my point, is that, like, the internal process to remedy disfellowshipping is another gross abusive process that only ever results in disfellowshipping and re-traumatizing the victim. So I think that Watchtower should have to answer for this. I think they're going to try and make these last minute Hail Marys they were throwing the backbone of their appeal and stuff. Otherwise, they will just be purely repeating the exact same thing they said before. And, you know, as we're seeing in this demonstration of an appeal process, that doesn't really work. You need to make a new argument.
I feel I am repentant. I know in my heart of hearts that I've hurt Jehovah.
No idea if that's legally true at all. Speaking totally
the last 2 days that he
out of my ass.
forgive me as he did David. I'm not a threat to the congregation.
Now, I love this. This is deflation, in my opinion, because what groups like to do is they bring up good faith criticisms, actual problems. The act of bringing them up makes it feel as though the problem has been addressed or debunked when in fact it is not. You see, the issue, and I'm sure if you're a disfellowshipped person like myself, you've thought about this, is that King David did things that are way worse than basically anything short of CSA, right? Like that's, I think ex-Jehovah's Witnesses agree that any religion should be able to decide their own membership. It's just whether or not you have some structural, you have to shun people or else you too may get shunned, right? Like that's the problem. That's the problem, is the systemic shunning. It's not this person is an abuser, therefore they are not welcome at our Kingdom Hall. That's good. We want that. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses like actively advocate for child predators to be cast out of the congregation instead of allowed back in like they currently are by Jehovah's Witnesses. I forget what I was saying that because I got distracted by Ron Pomo being here. I was excited. We're just sort of, we're debunking Jehovah in general. We were looking over the Norway case and the arguments that Riesdahl was making about the disfellowshipping process and the fact that all of these ex-JWs are just sour grapes. They're aggrieved. They don't have to go through all this. Like they could simply fade away. There are ways within Jehovah's Witnesses to remedy these things. Like he's basically was arguing that, hey, there's a few bad apples out there, a few bad Jehovah's Witnesses who shun people, but not us. That's not what we do. And so I thought it would be good to look at what the appeal process looks like to see what that looks like. I just thought we should look at it so that we would look at it. Just gonna say totally redundant things. Let's watch it because it's been a while since we've caught up with Robbie.
Psalm, where David prayed for a pure heart.
Oh shit. Well, okay, so my larger point was David. David's pretty bad, right? David committed rape. Let's be real. He did not like have a consensual affair with Bathsheba. That's not how I read the story now with my current lens. David saw a woman that he thought was hot, and because he was the king, he was able to just demand that she be his. And then he had the woman's husband murdered, and then, did wars and other murders and things, right? So most people who are disfellowshipped from Jehovah's Witnesses are like 19-year-olds who look at pornography or were like posted a meme that they didn't realize was apostate on TikTok, or they fooled around when they were engaged instead of waiting till marriage. Like it's usually it's stuff like that. David did a lot worse things, committed murders. And yet David has a book of the Bible named after him and was not disfellowshipped ever. And so that seems to be a problem. Like if anybody ever in all of human history should have been disfellowshipped, it should probably be David, not Robbie, who didn't kill anyone after sleeping with Aquarium Lady. And so I think maybe they're bringing this up to be like, to inoculate elders against this defense. They don't want elders to be thinking, well, I mean, he has a point. David was repentant, and look at what David did. No, they don't want that. This is an argument that evil sinners make to try and manipulate elders. You have to be strong against this sort of
that I can have
logic.
And then I got to thinking more and more about David. He not only got Bathsheba pregnant,
exactly.
He was responsible for killing her husband. That was pretty bad.
They smelled like fish after.
But Jehovah mercifully kept him in his favor.
Sorry.
David wasn't taken off the throne. He wasn't banished from his friends.
He's cooking. Robbie's cooking.
Disfellowship from true worship. Jehovah extended him mercy. Brother,
Now, who's getting an inspirational montage?
please. That's all I want. I'm just asking that you brothers please look at me through the eyes of Jehovah. Show me mercy like he did to David. Please, I beg you, be kind and loving to me and my family like Jehovah was to David.
No! Flawless argument, except that the rulebook says no. Sorry. Sudden Life is absolutely correct. We don't shun people. In any way, shunning is not so bad, and why didn't they just appeal it anyway? Yes, yeah, that is their argument. Shunning isn't a big deal. We don't do it, except for all the ones of us who apparently do. But they did it wrong and bad. But also everyone should be able to shun people. Because another argument they make is like, well, people in the world are able to cut off relationships with their family member. And it's like, yeah, it's personal choice. It's about personal choice versus a mandated systemic thing. David kind of got lucky, you know? If the judicial process existed at that time, maybe he would have been.
Your situation through the eyes of Jehovah. So we have to ask ourselves, why? Why?
That's true. You can actually see the pillows that David used in the Bible story book, and it's like a piece of metal. It's like a little hook for his head to hang in. We talked about that in a previous video.
Show mercy to David. Let's look again.
Yeah,
at
let's
Psalm
actually
51.
appreciate this look between the elders, because this was a series of elder faces.
Let's look again at Psalm 51. Robbie, we do want to look at your situation
George.
through the eyes of Jehovah. So we have to ask ourselves, why? Why did Jehovah show mercy to David?
Aw. Echo's giving me some love
Let's
down
look again
here.
at Psalm 51.
I don't think I went back far enough, sorry, but that's okay. Oh, here's a Bible, Robbie. Now, this was a cue. You didn't realize this, but we actually just received essentially a clue. If we were Steve, we would whip out our handy-dandy notebook and write down a clue, which is that Robbie forgot his Bible to the most important court hearing of his life, which is a sign that he's a charlatan who does not really care about Jehovah. If he was really repentant, he might have brought 2 Bibles and a reasoning book just in case.
As we read verses 1 through 4, we'd like you to begin thinking about your feelings and attitude a few days ago when you were meeting with the brothers. And please remember also that was 2 or more months after your first act of wrongdoing. As I read verses 1 through 4, ask yourself if the brothers would have gotten this same impression from you, not today, but at the hearing last week.
So here's, as we all know, the most sincere apologies are the ones made the most quickly and frantically and aggressively. It usually doesn't take any time for people to mull over their decisions and to process them and to change their behavior. Usually, the sign that a person is repentant is that they immediately pivoted away from what they did and dumped everything. That's the sign of repentance that Jehovah's Witnesses are looking for. Now, I'm willing to bet that that is more similar to how child abusers apologize aggressively and prostrating. Damn it, I knew I was going to do that. Prostrating. I felt myself trying to use the word prostrate. Knew it wasn't going to work, but it happened. Prostrating themselves before the elders and, saying, please, 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 I'm so sorry. I'll come back no matter what. I'm willing to bet a lot of CSA committers apologize like that. And maybe people who haven't committed serious crimes and are just sort of baffled by this experience and thrown off by it might lash out in confusion and anger at first and take some time to process. Maybe. We'll see.
It says, show me favor, O God.
The Bible is a lot about prostrate health.
I agree with both of you. I'm comparing what we read.
So let's watch this, because this is how elders now, when they hear an appealed case, and it seems to me, just from my ability to decode the language of cinema, I think we were supposed to think that Robbie put on quite a performance there. There was inspirational music. There were looks of elderface exchanged. There was a free exchange of elder faces in the free market of ideas. And now we're gonna see what they do. Sorry, I had a few starred comments that I wanted to say. So this from Johnsky was such a good comment. I set it aside. OMFG, they must love feeling this important, filling out forms, and feel the authority. Yes, I think this is exactly it. And it's something that I just kind of uncovered when I was recording my rebuttal to the first two videos in this Robbie saga. I was just kind of realizing, oh, it's all a pathetic power fantasy, because Jehovah's Witnesses, like all cults, are denied having any kind of power or agency or authority in their own life, right? You know the simple joy that we now have, that we can maybe sleep in on a Saturday, work schedules dependent, of course, but like whatever time you were spending going to the meetings, that's your time now, which feels amazing. Those simple freedoms are like still so important to me. They give me a lot of fulfillment. I just have some agency in my life for how I'm spending my time. You don't have that as a Jehovah's Witness, and you have even less of it when you are an elder or doing a million privileges for the group, because you're just constantly doing actual free labor involving reams of paperwork and traveling to deliver said paperwork elsewhere and like filling out the congregation expense reports and stuff. But you get to do this, and this is how they keep people in. You have this authoritarian structure, but you make these people at the bottom feel a little bit powerful. Like a little taste of authority you give them is going to feel amazing. It's how dictatorships work. It's how authoritarian groups work. And it's how all cults work. You give some people a little bit of power, and then that makes them feel good. This thing that elders are missing in their lives because it has been stolen from them by Watchtower, they find that as elders, and it's toxic and bad. I thought this was a really great comment by Dial. The fact that they don't have official things like this for sexual abuse is actually really gross, because it both allows local elders to make terrible decisions and gives the org plausible deniability. I had never thought about this, but this is absolutely correct. Imagine that they did have a video like this on like how to handle child sexual abuse cases. Go. That's it. That's the point of the video. We're going to walk it through step by step. That would be very stupid of Watchtower to do that, because then they would be on the record and it could be played to them in court and they would be in trouble, which is why their language in the Elders Manual in recent years have changed. There used to be a quote in the Elders Manual that said that once a person, is disfellowshipped or whatever, I don't remember the context they used it, but they said the matter is now in Jehovah's hands. And I believe it was used in reference to like CSA and stuff. So it was very bad when that started to come out in court, that we leave these matters in Jehovah's hands. So they don't say that anymore, but they still believe it. They just don't have those words there anymore. And so I think the problem that we're going to have is this group is going to become more insular and isolated, but they're not going to change the rules. We just won't see it. We won't have as many abilities to see this stuff, because I do think at some point they're going to get smart enough to not even have all of their cringy broadcasts on their public-facing website. I've said it a few times. I think if they were smart, they would have Watchtower Online Library be all for Jehovah's Witnesses only, and have jw.org be only the most publicly accessible, like the least culty material they have. Let's put it like that. I see them moving in that direction. Just make it harder to find the damning stuff. Yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Had to shout out chat, because people have been making good points, and I've just been
Viewed in
doing
chapters 5 through 7 of KS 10, and how the Judicial Committee handled the case.
Absolutely.
There's no serious flaw in how they arrived.
Excellent. But the fact that they make all these training videos, sorry, this is Lava Blue, but the fact they make all these training videos show that it wouldn't be hard for them to produce actual safeguarding policies and enforce them. That's the part they lost me when I was waking up. Yes, excellent point. This is the second half of what I should have been saying, which is that they're not going to make a video like that, but they could. And this is what governments are figuring out. Like, witnesses have terrible child safeguarding policies, but they could have good ones because the members do believe everything that the leadership says. If tomorrow the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses announced that all Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide are to give, just like in Bible times, a percentage of their income, tithing. If they were to institute tithing tomorrow, it would be done. A thing that they once declared to be unscriptural, they would do it. Some Jehovah's Witnesses would leave. Some small percentage would leave. Most would not. By this point, they have weeded out enough people where most people there are going to just follow the rules, right? So they could just have a bunch of people give them a bunch of money tomorrow if they wanted to, but they don't. So this is the thing. Like, once organizations start looking into Jehovah's Witnesses, realize the kind of captive control they have over their members, it becomes that much more unacceptable that the rules are so haphazard, because they could be using this insane amount of power and influence they have over people to at least have some measures that protect children.
At their decision. And then hearing Robbie's and the committee's further comments was helpful. Robbie's spirit and demeanor tonight were evidently very different from the original hearing. And Robbie finally admitted during our discussion that his attitude was different now than it was then.
Either the discipline is starting to work, or he's a very good actor.
For the sake of our discussion, we had best assume that the discipline is working and that he is intent on mending his relationship with Jehovah.
Yeah, I agree. We don't want to say or do something that could make it more difficult for him to return to Jehovah in time.
Yeah, good.
That was amazing. That one guy, all it took was one small sentence of correction, and he just argued against the exact same thing he brought up. He's like, it could be an actor. The guy's like, we shouldn't say that. The guy's like, I agree. We should never say anything like that, ever. Silliness. Okay. So, it's just funny, like, of course they don't think there was anything seriously wrong with the original committee, because they believe in the what this whole structure is, that judicial committees should be a thing. When the flaw in the original is that this is stupid and weird, and they shouldn't do this. Because it's creepy and inappropriate.
Okay, we'll invite them back in, and
not in the Bible!
That we accede to the
this isn't in the Bible. Everything that's happening here is something completely invented by Jehovah's Witnesses. Find me throughout the Gospel, the Old Testament, the Mosaic Law, anything resembling the Committee of Elders process as it currently exists. What is the scriptural justification for an S-77 form beyond just let things be organized? Okay.
The Judicial Committee. So, the disfellowshipping stands.
Oh, no, there you go. Okay. That was it. Robbie poured his soul out, and it wasn't enough. They're like, too bad. Too bad, so sad. And I find it interesting that the whole problem is like, yeah, but his attitude was different at the original committee. And so the fact that his attitude is different now, and that he is saying more Jehovah's Witnesses sounding things, means that the discipline is working, and therefore it means it was right to disfellowship him, because it put the fear of God in him. And now he is saying the Jehovah's Witnessy things that he was supposed to be saying. You see, if he didn't deserve to be disfellowshipped in the first place, he might have been saying those Jehovah's Witnessy things in his first judicial committee. Too bad.
Too bad, you great city.
Robbie, we
Babylon, you
reviewed the
strong
recording
city.
And have given consideration to all that was said in our discussion tonight.
Oh, the elder face.
Agree to
Feel it brewing.
let the Judicial Committee's decision stand. So the disfellowshipping will be announced. Not this Thursday, but instead the following Thursday at the service meeting. Do you understand?
I understand.
As a committee, we want to commend you, Robbie. From the description of your disposition at the original meeting, and what you ended up acknowledging at this meeting, your response tonight was very different than what you displayed last week. We want you to stay focused on Jehovah's qualities of justice and mercy. Jehovah is...
Stay focused on that so that you understand that what happens to you actually was just and merciful. Because remember, God could have just killed you like he used to do.
Watching and looking for any and all indication that the way you expressed yourself tonight will be a continuing process.
You still have access to Watchtower Library, so there's plenty of information for you to research and meditate on.
Again, remember that this is the victim of child sexual abuse, perhaps? Or someone who just thinks the religion is not true?
This is a reference to a chapter in the Jeremiah book that we studied last year.
There you go. There you go. Here's a post-it note with a reference to a Jehovah's Witness book that you can read again because they know he's already read it.
Jehovah wants you to come back.
Oh, trust us. I mean, he didn't say anything to us specifically, but we're pretty sure he does.
Earlier, the brothers explained what steps you need to take to be reinstated. Keep coming to the meetings. And feel free to get any publication you need for yourself from the brother behind the literature counter. Any other questions, Robbie?
No, I guess not.
Do you want one of us to drive you home, or do you feel up to driving yourself?
I'm okay.
Are you going to kill yourself on the way home, Robbie?
Do
you think you can get home without driving off a bridge, Robbie?
You have a question later on, don't you?
Yeah.
You're not passing any noose factories on the way home, are you, Robbie? Oh, and then these guys we haven't cut to for like 10 minutes, or we're apparently there the whole time.
I'll let your dad know when the announcement will be.
Okay.
That's rough. I'll let your dad know. Oh, God. Also, I'll tell your father. Goodbye.
Thank you, brothers, for your time and the way you handled the matter.
We're happy to be of help. We have your...
5 men at this table out of 6 will go home and masturbate to pornography and not tell their wives or the elders.
Report here. Since he didn't contest our decision, we just need to add the date the announcement will be made.
Sounds good.
We just need to initial this in triplicate.
I'll conclude with prayer.
Yeah, now they're gonna go grab a beer and go to Buffalo Wild Wings and gossip about the congregation. All right, well, we learned something here today, folks. I don't know exactly what it was. Anyway, I'm glad that we went through the Norway stuff. It sounds like Jehovah's Witnesses really blew up, like Chuck McGill in his deposition, or it wasn't a deposition, it was a bar hearing about Jimmy McGill. Very sorry for that slight error. Yeah, I think that Watchtower's lawyer Riestel gave the equivalent of Chuck McGill's chicanery speech and kind of showed their ass, and will probably be stripped, and they'll probably appeal, right? Because I believe after this they can potentially appeal. But I want to keep this Judicial Committee stuff alive in the ether because it's actually really important to the fear structure of Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't see these videos, so they don't actually totally know how judicial processes work until they have to go through it. Like Robbie, they show up, have no idea what it's going to be, and are just like thrown into that kind of environment where it's just men in suits browbeating them and condescending to them and asking them personal questions. And, you know, if you feel like it was handled unjustly or they were wrong, it's totally rigged against you. Like another elder body can technically take a look at it. But, and they didn't even say this in the video, the original elder body, with quintessential elder face man himself and George, they could veto the appeal. Like, let's say the appeal committee agreed that Robbie was wrongfully disfellowshipped. They would then just send something to the original committee, and the original committee could just say, well, we think we're right, so do that. And that's how it works. That's how it works. Oh, this is also true. So Ramrod says go home and tell their wives everything without saying anything. Yes, that's the other thing they would do, is they would vaguely allude to a situation, disfellowshipping situation. I'm on a committee. We're dealing with this situation, young brother. committed, well, they'll talk around it to their wives until they can put two and two together, or they'll just tell their wives. Yeah, you'd have to find a body of elders that has major fucking beef with those other elders. Like elder thought another elder's pool is ostentatious, and now they haven't spoken in months. Yes, I know. Well, and this does give complicated feelings to like my JW family to some degree. I do see them as victims of victims. I know that they think that they're doing the right thing, the elders, but I do also view it as very sad playing Little Rascals, Woman Haters Club boys who just, have little special meetings and make rules and have court cases that only make any sense to them. Like, I think it's all creepy and sad and weird and pathetic. But they also don't know any better. So, and also I say this not to be like above it, because I wasn't, obviously. I wasn't an elder, but I wanted to be. I would have been if they would have asked me to be. And I was totally in it for the organizational aspect of it. It's the part of myself that I'm definitely most like, I find cringiest, because in a lot of ways it's counter to how I view myself, which is as a pretty like creative anti-authoritarian person. And so I don't like knowing that there is a part of me that apparently loves. I mean, I didn't love it, but I was content to do it for a long time. But yeah. When there is democracy, when there is an ability to hold corrupt institutions to account within a government, great things can happen. And that's why great things happen in Norway. It's really bad. It could absolutely cause a bit of a cascading effect. Frankly, I do think a lot of places have bigger fish to fry. They may be more worried about than Jehovah's Witnesses, but I hope not. I hope that things that are happening in Washington keep happening. Things like the report that happened in New Zealand and now Norway. Canada, I believe, has like suggested some interest in covering some of these things. And of course, in Pennsylvania, we've got all these things brewing. I was thinking, if I may briefly, totally off the top of my head, spew some political thoughts. I'm kind of like half German.
It's difficult not to take sides in politics. It's very difficult because we are aware of the issues.
When you like look at history and you look at why did World War I start? Why did World War II start? You can then look back and see how precarious things were for so long that it was miraculous that something terrible didn't happen sooner. And I think like what's happening now with a lot of government institutions so easily collapsing and being commandeered by an authoritarian is because for a long time the warning signs have been there that these institutions are weak, that like we live in a very fractured media environment. Nobody's on the same page anymore. We're all in our little algorithms, so there's no consensus on facts anymore. Like that's a thing that was just, it was the case for a while, but at a certain point it reached a head, and it came in conjunction with all this other instability and other corrupt motives, and then the inevitable happens. And right now with Jehovah's Witnesses, it feels like there's so many different precariously balanced legal issues that they have that at any given point could really, really mess up their group. Like any one of these cases is pocket change to them. The bigger problem is the branding. Jehovah's Witnesses have actually thrived because they are irrelevant. Mormons have made themselves very relevant. And it is the exact moment that they became super relevant that they became super scrutinized, right? Anytime that Mormons reveal themselves to be a powerful voting bloc, or they're operating in this city contrary to federal law or whatever, that's when they get the heat. And Scientology too. They can do their crazy pseudoscience shit, but if they're going to start trying to infiltrate the FBI and CIA and crazy shit like that, like they were trying to do in the L. Ron Hubbard days, then the government's going to come after you. Or the IRS, like L. Ron Hubbard at the end of his life in the 80s. He tried to kill himself because finally the IRS is closing him. But it's just like there's all of these different precarious things happening with Jehovah's Witnesses that feel like we are kind of reaching a fever pitch where I don't know that there's been this many bad things happening for them all over the world in various states of completion. And I think they're in a pretty bad spot. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Probably they're just going to limp along, but there's a lot of reasons to be excited and hopeful in the world, in addition to being sad. And I hope that I end on that. I know that I was being mopey early on, and then we read a triggering article and watched a triggering video. But these people are absurd on their face, and they're very, very embarrassed when people understand who they are. When people accurately represent Jehovah's Witness beliefs to their face, they are deeply uncomfortable and embarrassed by it. We know this. If you confront witnesses with the fact that they believe that only witnesses survive Armageddon and that billions are going to die, they'll deny it. They'll just lie and say that's not true. It is true. They say it. They write it down. They repeat it. It's why they preach. It's the why for everything. But they believe the doctrines and the lies they tell themselves to continue accepting those doctrines in equal measure. Right, not ashamed of the good news. Well, every accusation is a confession. We are not embarrassed. We are not ashamed. There's no reason to apologize. Here's another thing that I think is really, really important. This is something I was thinking about watching that yoga cult documentary that I talked about a couple of videos ago. At a certain point in the documentary, there was this yoga cult, like a wellness influencer, kind of weaponized the old toxic teachings, became a cult leader, blah, blah, blah. At a certain point, the people in the cult are like, why are we doing this? This is making us look terrible in terms of like PR stuff. It's when the leader had fully lost her mind. This lady, I forget what she calls herself, guru, blah, 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 blah. She's Bikram, is that it? She's going crazy. She's losing her mind, but she's having her social media team post her crazy rants on social media. And they're like, this is a bad idea because it makes our business look insane. We shouldn't do this. But here's the thing. An insane person ran their business, so they had to post them on social media. It didn't make them look good. It just exposed how crazy the cult leader was. They don't have a great strategy, and to the extent that they have a strategy, it is limited by the craziness of the people in charge. Like, the people in charge of Jehovah's Witnesses, let's say, are crazy people. They're narcissists, cult leaders, and they have no idea how crazy they look to everybody else. Maybe some small idea, but the reason why they don't like listening to criticism is because they know how the world views them, right? So what do? They shut it down. They don't want to hear it. They can't hear it. They start shunning people who criticize the group or question the leadership. And all of that is weakness. Like, cults are weakness. Authoritarian regimes are weakness. They do this because they are not comfortable with people with less power than them or not as worthy as them, holding them to account. Like violence. We're rewatching The Sopranos right now because I needed a comfort show. I'm comforted by graphic depictions of mob violence, but it's an amazing show of it's like the show is all about how toxic and damaging patriarchy is. Really, like, it's about toxic masculinity, about, like, if you deflect with violence, that is weakness. If you deflect with rage and flipping tables and killing people, that is because you are ashamed, because you don't have the power and strength to talk about something with someone else. And so what I see all around the world with Jehovah's Witnesses, with a lot of cults, is so much weakness. And in their weakening and losing position, they have to try and desperately hang on, and they dig in their heels and they make themselves even crazier. And so I think that Jehovah's Witnesses are not in such a great place right now. And I think that all cults that build themselves on divine hierarchies, those don't actually exist, so they're pretty easy to topple. So I don't know, guys. I've been feeling pretty up and down, mood-wise, trying to figure it out. We'll see. Hey, Paulie, Walnuts over here. The problem is I've been doing all this fucking Sopranos talk around the house. Never had the makings of a voice shitty athlete. I can't even do it. I just do a shitty... It's more fun the more shitty you make your Sopranos accent. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. This actually Let's do this. I think we have to queue up a quick hot take.
This is Hot Take Jake.
I don't give a shit about this. I watched the Super Bowl halftime show, thought it ruled, thought Kendrick was amazing. I'm a big Kendrick fan. Like, I've liked his music. Not before he was cool, but, you know, like, I've always followed his stuff. And so I was super psyched that he was hosting it. It was everything I wanted it to be. It seemed to piss off the right people, which was very, very funny. And, okay, then there's Serena Williams, who's a Jehovah's Witness. Okay, so I understand people upset by the hypocrisy of the fact that she's a Jehovah's Witness, but because she's famous, she's able to do stuff that definitely would have gotten us in trouble if we were Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know. I don't really care about that. I don't care about that with Serena, specifically because Sabrina does not make the policies of Jehovah's Witnesses. She's just somebody who, like, as a kid was raised a witness. To her, it is just a religion, clearly. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're famous and then you were raised as a kid, you were kind of a Jehovah's Witness, but whatever, you knew that you wanted to be great at something. Like, Donald Glover's like this too, where he left really young, right? Like, he was raised, but at a pretty young age. Clearly, Donald Glover's a phenom and was just, that was going to be his thing. And so they never are, like, fully in it as Jehovah's Witnesses. And then later in life, it's not so hard for them to just appease their parents and say, okay, fine, I'll be a witness. Because to them, they're rich and famous and nobody can hold them to account. So, like, they can just do that stuff. But that's not Serena Williams. That's not her fault, right? It's the organization's fault for making a world in which we weren't able to just... Well, first of all, I to be honest, I don't even know what I danced when I was a witness. I went to dance parties. You could have crip walked as a Jehovah's Witness in the congregations I was in. I went to, I don't know, like, a lot of congregations I was in were, like, primarily black congregations, and they would do all sorts of, like, dance parties, line dancing. Won't surprise you to learn. Never really stuck with me. Not a big dancer. It's not one of God's gifts that I received. But I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't really get why people are all mad about it. Like, if Serena Williams was like Brandon Flowers from The Killers, making promotional videos for Jehovah's Witnesses, talking about how great this religion is, then yes, I would call that out. I don't have a problem with just her dancing and kind of, it was just a little cameo for 2 seconds. I think it's weird that anybody cared that much, to be honest. And frankly, I'm like, dance video when? There might be a rap video at some point, and that's not a joke. It'll be on my other channel. I think it sucks. I think, like, I get it. I get the hypocrisy of it. It is annoying, like, because when I grew up, it was Michael Jackson and Prince, who were the supposedly, like, the celebrity Jehovah's Witnesses. And witnesses just have a different relationship to celebrities than other groups do. Like, Scientologists who are more in the know and other celebrities are probably resentful of Tom Cruise. Like, I'm sure that now all the ex-Scientology celebrities, they all hate Tom Cruise, obviously. But I got to imagine, like, if, as a Jehovah's Witness, my favorite movie franchise when I was a teenager, the Mission Impossible franchise, if the lead actor was, instead of a Scientologist, a Jehovah's Witness, I would have been so excited and proud. I would have loved it. Thought it was awesome. And so I'm sure that I'm sure the witnesses just think it's cool that she was able to show up there. You know, I don't give a shit about it. I really don't. I think that my frustration is always with, like, when you know better, you have to do better. Serena Williams, like, let's be real, she did not get the Jehovah's Witness experience. She did it as a little kid, probably. Occasionally heard some shit from her JW family over the years. And when she became an adult, had the most friendly red carpet rolled out Bible study of all time. And I'm sure that the religion wanted her because she'll give a bunch of money to them. And I'm sure that's all the thought she gives it. If I had to guess, Serena Williams' life is not too different, other than she probably does tennis coaching instead of, you know, whatever. If she became a pro-JW advocate, I would feel different. But when you know better, do better. I don't think Serena Williams has watched the Australian Royal Commission, right? But I think that Tom Cruise absolutely knows about all the harmful shit. And so, fuck Tom Cruise. Like, even then, I gotta be real with you. I've got a... If Tom Cruise was a Jehovah's Witness, okay, now as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, that would be harder for me. Because it just so happens that I love a lot of Tom Cruise movies. Yeah, Tom Cruise is an awful person. I can't justify my enjoyment of his movies at all. Some of my favorite movies are Minority Report, Magnolia, Mission Impossible, 3, Ghost Protocol, and 5 are really peak for me. But I like a lot of Tom Cruise movies. I don't know. But that's a little different because that's like separating the art from the artist, which when it comes to actors and rock stars, I tend to be able to do because I expect them all to be huge pieces of shit. And like their whole thing is like my enjoyment of the work is like the Mission Impossible movie completed product or like the album Thriller. And I'm not thinking so much about Michael Jackson specifically. Serena Williams, if she was still, because she retired, right? I'm not a big sports person, but in the whole thing that she retired and then became a Jehovah's Witness, it seems to me like if she was an active Jehovah's Witness the whole time and was like doing little, instead of a Gatorade commercial, she does like a JW.org thing. Oh, then I'd be up in air. Then I would be swinging fists, but as it stands, frankly, I can't tell a lot of the criticisms of people who are like kind of annoyed because it's hypocritical and people who are annoyed because they're racist and we're uncomfortable with the fact that it was like an all black halftime show because that's important for some reason. I don't know. I agree. She probably goes to as many Zoom meetings as I do, says Dr. Shemp. Corner Zoom going on. Oh, yeah. I don't think she's showing up to the Centralburg congregation and, like, raising her hand for the congregation Bible study all that often, right? Like, is Serena Williams really up there giving the demo with the pre-planned Watchtower presentation? I don't know. I'll bet that she has made a calculation that someone's going to film that shit and put it on the internet and it would be cringe for her, so she doesn't do it. That would be my guess. Wow, I have absolutely no idea what that is. I do know that there is controversy. Like, I saw headlines about controversy. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I know who Blake Lively is. I don't know who this other guy is. Blake Lively, it kind of seems to me, has been almost retired since she married Ryan Reynolds. I don't know. Prince apparently did go to a lot of meetings and go in service. Yeah, Prince apparently had periods where he really did take it seriously. I think he always had this this thing inside him, this split, probably cognitive dissonance, we call it now, where on one hand, he's Prince, he's a genius, and on the other hand, he has this internalized shame from being a witness, and probably, went through periods where he was losing himself in his music and times when he was losing himself in religion in equal measure. Like, didn't Bruce Springsteen, like, he would just drive around across state by himself for hours when he wasn't on tour because his whole thing was just like that guy for a long time when he wasn't on tour. He just had depression and didn't know who the fuck he was and just drive around. If Bruce Springsteen had been raised a witness, maybe he'd go to the Kingdom Hall instead. That was the takeaway. Prince apparently had periods. The artist formerly known as Monarchy. That's what he was known just for his first album. Okay, well, we did it. Good show, long show. I don't know what the point of this was, really. We caught up. We did some things. I'm going to try and release a video. I released a little bonus video. But because it was just like a video of mine that was 6 months old and I just hit public on it instead of members only like it was before, I don't think anybody really noticed that it even came out. But it doesn't matter. I just was like, I want to put something out. This is actually a good bonus video that I put effort into. So I'll release this. I've got stuff recorded for patrons. I've got stuff recorded for the channel. So much stuff. It's just a matter of getting through it. I'm trying to survive, trying to keep myself sane. Play South to Do from Coldplay. Okay.
Well, I haven't really been doing a lot of voices lately. I was able to do his voice a lot better when I had a code a little bit ago. Well, some of us might have seen Chris Martin, I believe, and I haven't gone through and looked yet, but he was on the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary show, and so that would be interesting. I'm hoping to watch that.
I have been watching a lot of SNL 50 stuff. In my depression stupor, I watched all the little SNL 50 documentaries they released. They were great. I recommend watching the one following the writers because it's interesting because it's the current writers who I think are hit or miss. And it's like, it's kind of like following, it's SNL's always hit or miss. So it's like you follow a couple sketches, one that makes to air and one that totally doesn't. And it's kind of interesting because the whole time I was watching it thinking like, this sketch sucks. Why? They're not going to. And then, you know, I don't know if I was supposed to be devastated or surprised when it didn't make it to air, but I wasn't. I was like, this sketch isn't funny. I think you just think it's funny because you wrote it at 3 a.m. I've been there before. Did that the other night with a script that while I was writing it, I thought was going to be a magnum opus that would permanently transform my YouTube channel. Right the next day, and I was like, this is like incomprehensible diary entry. No one can ever see this. So I get it. I have been doing a lot of voices, but now I can't think of what they are. I guess I do a lot of Sopranos voices, but they're really shitty. Mad Men. I don't really do any good. Lane Price I occasionally do from Mad Men. I don't know. But, I'll tell you what else I've been doing. I've been doing good at the news consumption and not being too totally overwhelmed. But oh boy. On the other hand, no, I haven't. I've been a little bit conspiratorially minded and worried about how quickly things are going to go to shit. And like, I bought a cheap typewriter. I bought an electronic typewriter, an extra little ink cartridges so that I could like have like a way to type on paper in case the apocalypse comes or something. So like, I've been very manic. Like I've occasionally been feeling very conspiratorial. The world's going to end. Sometimes feeling like everything's going to be fine. We're going to solve it. We'll conquer fascism like we always do. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's going to take 30 years to do that. Why did I have to be born now? Why did I have to be born? I just wanted to write books for middle schoolers with cartoons and fart jokes in them. And now I don't think that industry is going to exist. And I wanted to make YouTube videos. And now I don't know if YouTube's going to exist. You know, so I have days like that. And then I have days where I'm like, fuck that. Videos are always going to exist. I'm going to make 1 million of them and just post them on a website. We're going to, whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just constantly like cycling between psychos. What's going on with Justin and Blake? Maybe I don't want to feel the cold loneliness of silence just yet. Let's look at Blake Lively. Yes! They asked me what I thought about it, and I had no idea what it was, so now I'm trying to figure it out. What's the best summary? I'm telling you, it's getting to that point a little bit. A little bit, it's getting to that point. I didn't know about Tom Hanks' short stories all written on different typewriters. I'll tell you why I got the typewriter. It's for my own personal, like, for writing journal entries that are just for me that I don't post anywhere. Because I did have a thing where I was starting to get a little worried about making everything I do and enjoy content. Like, I'm not at that point, but I am concerned about that being a thing. And so I was like, oh my God, and we had no Peaches break shit. Okay. Well, that's a good point. Hang on. Let me go grab a Peaches. We'll learn a little bit about current events, and I'll be right back. Okay. Wait. Alt Wifey, can you explain it? The Blake Lively situation? Oh, okay. All right, I'm getting an inside scoop. I'm going to go grab a quick peach and be right back.
It's interesting. So, planet Earth.
Jehovah has cursed.
Whoops. Hey, we got Peachy. Oh, it's a peach break. Here she is. Peach is one of the best depression companions a person can have. If you're ever going through a hard time, I strongly recommend getting a peach. I strongly recommend having friends who have puppies and give you a very good deal. This girl helps a lot, I have to say. I forgot how much I loved dogs, because I had one. I lived at home with my parents, then we moved, and we got a cat when we got married, and I love our cats very much. We love our cats. We can see Bo right here. She probably wants to see him, because they're best friends. They are. They play together. It's true. Let's see. What do we want to learn about? What's the most accurate reporter? I mean, do we trust E! Online? People? Us? Entertainment Weekly? Uh-oh. Megyn Kelly had something to say, which I'm sure was totally accurate. Do we trust Fox News? I need an explained. I need one of those explained articles. The Independent. A timeline of the feud. Here we go. Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. A timeline of the feud and lawsuit between It Ends With Us co-stars. Bitter feud is alleged to have begun while filming the box office hit It Ends With Us. All right. Blake Lively is suing her It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni for sexual harassment and a campaign to destroy her reputation months after the release of their box office hit. The 37-year-old plays Lily Bloom. Any relation to Jenny Bloom in the All-Worldly chat? We'll find out shortly. In the film based on the TikTok sensation, It Ends With... What? The TikTok sensation? What? Christina knows all about this. She's like, yeah, the novel, Hoover. I'm like, what? Oh. What are the chances that Not a Cult becomes a TikTok sensation? I feel not strong, personally. Baldoni, who directed the film, stars with Ryle Kincaid, her abusive partner. I'm sorry, I didn't know that was... The next sentence is going to be abusive partner. I wouldn't have put so much comedy stink on Ryle Kincaid. I don't like him by the name alone. And I'll say that even if he's totally innocent. Rumors of an on-set feud have been percolating online. There's a feud in the percolator. That was for Dr. Doc Shemp, who I think asked for a Twin Peaks related thing earlier. As the pair appeared to avoid each other during the film's promotional tour, Lively was called out for a tone-deaf approach to the movie, as some felt she failed to treat its heavy subject matter with appropriate solemnity. This is how you know you're reading The Independent. They don't use solemnity on peoplemagazine.com. However, the lawsuit also alleges that fan backlash was part of a carefully orchestrated effort by Baldoni's PR team, whose lawyers have counter-alleged that Lively's lawsuit is likewise an attempt to fix her negative reputation. Oh my god. Baldoni is a married father-in-law of two. Sorry, father of two. Father-in-law of two, probably wouldn't have made the news, and has positioned himself as an avid supporter of women's rights, adding another fuel to the controversy. He has since been awarded for being an ally to women. Oh, he's had an award rescinded? Never give me the Ally to Women award. Please, please. I know I'm in contention. Please don't give me the award. It just seems like a bad idea. That seems like a curse. If you give the Ally to Women award to somebody, you are going to be... you're going to be revealed to be a huge creep. I think that's just what's going to happen. She claimed he was being inappropriate during a scene shoot. He released the footage and audio. And are we saying then that the released footage and audio makes him seem better off than she tried to make him? Colleen Hoover makes Stephanie Meyer look like Charles Dickens. Is this a... Christina agrees. Is this a Cars 1 makes Cars 2 look like Cars 3 situation? Wait, no, that's not the joke. What is the joke for Blank? What's Griffin Newman's joke from Blank Check? Cars 2 makes Cars... Wait, no, Cars 3 makes Cars 2 look like Cars 1. God damn it. Dr. Dotchamp knows what I'm talking about. All right. We've got a timeline. I don't know why I'm asking for all these questions. After the success of Hoover's bestseller, Baldoni optioned the story for a film adaptation through his company, Wayfarer Studios, in January 2019. Lively was cast to lead the film in January 2023 with Baldoni starring alongside her. Hoover was excited at the prospect of both, as she wrote on Instagram at the time, "Our Lily is going to be played by Blake Lively. Blake Lively, y'all. She's my dream Lily." And then when I first met Justin Baldoni, who was directing the film for us, I immediately wanted him to be Ryle. I just thought that he had what it takes to play that character, and the good news is he's going to be Ryle. So we have our Ryle and our Lily. Okay. And you guys are telling me that she's not the best writer? Filming began in Hoboken, New Jersey, May 2023, but was halted. Strike. Give me the timeline of things that are relevant to what's happening. And this did well. This film released and did great, and I've never heard of it. So that's how tuned in I am. On the August 13th, feud rumors circulate as Lively and Baldoni avoid each other. Director hires Johnny Depp's crisis management PR firm. Rumors of feuds starting. TMZ alleges that case of Rife was a... This is why I'm confused. I was like, Rife? Why am I... Rife? Matt Rife, the comedian, was involved in this? Comedian? Was a result of being fat-shamed, inappropriate comments, and Baldoni kissing for too long during scenes. There had also been rumors online that the rift had started by Lively and her Deadpool and Wolverine husband, Ryan Reynolds, being too involved with the film. Oh, brother. I mean, this is the... She also bragged about being her own intimacy coordinator. Okay, all right. Okay, good. I'm glad that I can tune out. The Neil Gaiman thing, this is weird, but true. I've never read Neil Gaiman in my life. Never read anything that he wrote. And I have now 2 instances in my life of, like, I wanted to, when I was a little kid, wanted to read Harry Potter, but wasn't allowed because of Jehovah's Witness reasons, and I wasn't, so I didn't read it. And then I think the next thing related to that was probably Coraline with Neil Gaiman, which I just was aware of. But I never avoided Neil Gaiman. I just never read his stuff. And I don't know. Didn't read them because of witnessy reasons, and then I leave witnesses. They're both huge creeps. Obviously, Neil Gaiman is an actual predator. It's pretty awful. I've watched some videos from people that were really big fans of his trying to reconcile it. It seems awful. I mean, what he did is really awful. I read the reporting on it. It's insane. It's definitely been a little lesson in, hero worship. Really, basically since the Me Too movement started. I mean, I think that it's a lesson in power reveals. It doesn't corrupt, it reveals. When people get this kind of power, it reveals who they really were. And so, yeah. I too don't care, but I'm still deeply fascinated. Whoa. Amidst the criticism surrounding Lively, a Norwegian journalist... What's going on, Norwegian journalists? All over this stream today. Kirsty Flaw posted a clip of a 2016 interview with the actor, which made her want to quit her job. Uh-oh. The sit-down was in promotion of Lively's film Cafe Society, directed by Woody Allen. Lively was accompanied by her co-star Parker Posey. Well, okay. let's at least watch the part. Let's at least watch this interview that made her want to quit her job, because this is 4 minutes long and has 6.7 million views. And you know, maybe if we play our cards right, this will get the video copyright struck.
Bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
The problem with Posey Parker is that I said the name. This is Parker Posey. And then there's Posey Parker, who is an insane, like, pro-fash, anti-trans person. Kelly J. Keane, but used a name that's very similar. So I get these two people confused, which is unfortunate because Parker Posey is a great comedic actress who's been in many wonderful films.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
Love
You've
Parker.
got 2 nice ones.
And these, they are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
So far
You
cringe,
like the
but
movie?
normal.
Are you a Woody Allen fan?
I love most of his movies, and this one was so like visually amazing.
I don't know. Right off the bat, if I was starring in a Woody Allen movie, even in 2016, I wouldn't be like, hey, did you like the movie? What do you think of Woody Allen? I might have let the interviewer cue that one up.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, working in
Everyone
digital.
wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would.
I love Jesse's suits
He has some
and
beautiful.
how
That's what I'm
he
saying. His wardrobe was beautiful.
I know.
Corey's
Everybody.
wardrobe
I
was
know.
gorgeous.
He's
Those
so
high
great.
No one's asked me about my clothes today.
So great.
I would wish men
And
wore
sorry,
high-waisted pants
too.
like
I
that
know.
still.
Nobody's asked me about my high-waisted
Father
pants.
with his tank top and bed.
Here's here's what you do with pants. You pull them over your waist so that they hide your belly fat.
So
Just
good.
like-
That's what I do.
just like
Did you
that,
catch
you could
the,
feel
the
it.
tablecloth on the light in the Italian restaurant when they eat spaghetti?
I didn't
and
notice that.
So far, I just hate this, but not for
There's
any
so much
particular
warmth
moral
in
reason.
Everything, you know.
Yeah, it's not just the women that have the clothes.
But
Not just the women.
Get the conversation, but it's like
But the children,
every
too.
Detail with everybody.
But yeah,
It's so,
it was
so
amazing.
Oh,
And then to
that's
see it-
important context.
Yes.
And then you notice in LA, like everybody's in cream colors, and all the men are wearing like white and cream.
Oh.
And New York, and it's a little bit more browns and moodier. And Susie really told such a story.
Yeah, amazing.
Alongside Vittorio, because it is a lot brighter and sunnier in LA, and New York has just a steaminess to it.
And I think, you know, the whole Hollywood glam, it's so glamorous and
Mhm.
everything. Can you relate to the things they were saying about Hollywood? It's so easy to get seduced by the fame and the money and the glamour.
Oh, you see it all the time. That was one of my favorite things about the movie, were the subtle turns to their own
What movie is this?
transition into
Cafe
like, the
Society?
ego of showbiz that Kristen has in that scene with Steve Carell, and then with Bobby taking on the persona of a club owner, but still, like, these are things you do when you're an adult.
Yeah.
When you have to.
Shit, does that start tonight?
You
Ooh.
play a part. You play at your life in a way that you find successful, or so it's a lot about choices, and then they carry this love, and it's just very.
Yeah,
It's very
it's
grown
neat
up
to
and
see where
warm.
they came from, though, and see how authentic these people truly are, and what good people they truly are, too.
Yeah.
Because it's what you would see from the outside of the Cafe Society. You could dismiss each of their characters, but
Right.
to see what a heart and soul each of them have is nice, and it's something that, that's the thing, as far as like relating to it personally, that you see, you have these ideas of people that you're fans of, and then you meet them and get to know them as a person, and oftentimes you're such a greater fan of them as a person than you are as the person that people feel like they know, and that's always that's always nice and refreshing when you see that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, what do you feel like is the biggest misconceptions about fame and Hollywood in general?
I think the idea that people think that they know you, I think because of the
So did I just like miss the thing that was bad about this? It was really the comment about the bump and the weird feminist rebuttals to questions that were totally normal. Yeah. Let me hear this again, because the most replayed is definitely this first part.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got 2 nice ones.
I see. Yeah, definitely without context, I wouldn't have thought anything about this. Weird. Okay. I think what we learned today is that celebrity drama is always a complete bullshit waste of time. You know what wasn't a complete bullshit waste of time? Nobody was being mean. And, I think I'm desensitized because I watched, what was the channel that did it? Some channel did some insane, it was really great. It was a video on Destiny and what a huge creep he is. And every 2 seconds, I was hearing one of the most insane things I've ever heard anybody say in that video. But that's like talking about one of the possibly most psychotic people who's ever been able to be famous for the long time on the internet. And this is Blake Lively being slightly catty. So I don't know. I think weird streamer creep drama is still stronger so far than celebrity drama. They're going to have to step up their game if they're going to want me to care about this. And that they talk more to each other. That I thought was weird. I thought it was really weird that after that initial question, Blake Lively basically didn't look at the reporter the entire time, and then they only talked to each other, but I don't know. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to end the stream. Please remember, if you will, to buy things such as merchandise.
These clothes are designed to sexually excite both men and women.
You can get that in the links on the channel. Get shirts with the logo on it or other cool cartoons. There's going to be more in the future. We're going to make this store an apostate, cool design hotspot. I don't know. Or not, or it'll not be that exciting. I feel like I must have... I know I made something that was good. The last time I streamed, did I play that fucking Sam Hurd thing I made? The 2 sad stories? Join the Patreon channel. You'll get it. Here's the new intro I made. I don't think it's very good, but I like the sound drop. I like the sound effect. I don't think we're quite there on the graphic. So look forward to that shit. All right, goodbye. I don't know.